Chapter 746. It's a monkey, right? Gaia asked, standing beside Qinzhao. Yes, it's a monkey, Qinzhao said with certainty. It's definitely a monkey. But why is it wearing camouflage and holding a military knife? It's probably a military enthusiast. The camouflage on the monkey was very tattered and looked quite old. Bang! Cyclops accurately blew up the monkey's head. 7th person dead, Cyclops said. Can you explain why the monkey is wearing camouflage? Qinzhao turned to Cyclops. 60 years ago, the U.S. military wanted to build a military base here. But the explorers and troops in the early stages were brutally attacked here. Didn't you say that no one died here? I said that after I became the Guardian, no one has died here. Then the thing you said 60 years ago must have killed more than 13 people, right? That means the demon came out once. No. But didn't you say that if 13 people die, the sealed demon will come out? That's right, another 13 will die. Qinzhao was speechless. Just how many people died on this island? A lot, Cyclops said. Be more specific. 117. Isn't our equipment a bit weak? Just then, the voices of the monkeys came from the front. More than 200 monkeys appeared not far away. More than half of them were equipped with weapons. They were really fully armed monkeys. Most of them only held military knives, but some had pistols. These firearms and equipment all seemed to be very old. They were probably left behind 60 years ago. But no one knew how many were still usable. Cyclops' team started shooting at the monkeys. They didn't have the advantage in numbers, but their equipment was very good. At least, it wasn't something the monkeys could compare to. Under the strong firepower, the monkeys suffered heavy casualties. However, their movements were very agile, and they quickly scattered around the surrounding tree branches, hiding in the trees or in the bushes. Cyclops and his team weren't as strong as Qinzhao, but they were all good with guns. Bang, bang, bang. After a series of gunshots, a monkey was killed. Although these monkeys used their short stature and agility to constantly try to approach the entire team, they ultimately failed. Gaia, on the other hand, held 2 pistols. Her firing rate was not fast. However, every time he fired, he would be able to kill a monkey. Qinzhao could feel a few monkeys staring at him and approaching him. He also raised his gun and started shooting. However, it was as if Qinzhao was cursed. He couldn't hit any of the monkeys, even though there were so many of them. Fuck, these monkeys are too fast. On the side, Gaia glanced at Qinzhao. It was fine if his marksmanship was bad. Why did he have to find an excuse? Qinzhao's marksmanship was really bad. It was horrifyingly bad. After more than 10 minutes of gunfire, the monkeys were finally killed. Not a single one broke through the warning line, and Qinzhao's contribution points were 0. No, to be precise, it was not 0, but minus 100. Qinzhao didn't even kill a single monkey. Instead, he used up 3 or 4 clips. Qin, give me all your bullets. Gaia looked at Qinzhao. Give me your gun too. Leave a gun for me. I don't feel confident without a weapon. A handgun can give me a great sense of security. Cut the crap. Don't leave a single bullet. Give them all to me. Qinzhao had shot the most bullets. Of course, it was also because he had brought the most with him. Qinzhao was the one with the most weight. No one could carry more than him. On the other hand, a Qinzhao with a gun and a Qinzhao without a gun were 2 completely different concepts. A Qinzhao with a gun was a burden, and a burden to the team. Although Qinzhao was her good friend, this was an established fact. Qinzhao didn't hold a gun to kill enemies at all. Instead, he held it for the pleasure of shooting. As for whether Qinzhao would be safe without a gun, Gaia wasn't worried. Would Qinzhao be safe? Stop joking. The monkeys indeed looked scary, but they weren't much of a threat to the 2 of them. After the battle, they started cleaning up the battlefield. Qinzhao picked up a few knives. Gaia looked at Qinzhao. Why are you picking up so many knives? Do you know that China has a special skill? What skill? Little Li flying knife. There's such a skill. Yes. Do you know it? I'm practicing. The team continued forward. As for the team member who'd gotten the bento box, they only stripped him of his clothes and weapons. Then they held a simple cremation for him. After walking for about 1 kilometer, the team finally left the short grass. Before them was a poplar forest. The trees were all quite old, and the gaps between them weren't large. There was almost no light on the ground. The ground was covered in a thick layer of fallen leaves. It felt very uncomfortable to step on them. Suddenly, Chen Zhao felt the ground shake. "There's something under my feet," Chen Zhao said. Then, Cyclops' team immediately retreated to the dry ground behind them. "Why are you retreating?" Chen Zhao turned around and looked at them. Just then, Chen Zhao felt the ground sink. Then, a huge mouthpart burrowed out of the ground and wrapped around one of Chen Zhao's thighs. Chen Zhao hurriedly grabbed the trunk of the poplar beside him. It was a huge earthworm. Yes, an earthworm. Fuck, such a huge earthworm. The mouthpart wasn't actually very strong. It had a bit of biting force, but it didn't pose much of a threat to Chen Zhao. It wasn't very strong either. Chen Zhao took out a knife and slashed at the earthworm's mouth. A smelly green liquid gushed out. Disgusting. Chen Zhao's face was full of disgust. He kicked off the mouthpart on his thighs. Everyone was shocked when they saw this. If this thing was put on their feet, they would probably be dragged into the ground. Just then, earthworms burrowed out of the ground in front of them. The big ones were 3 or 4 meters long and had the girth of a bucket. The small ones were like the one that had bitten Chen Zhao's thighs earlier. "Fire on your own," One-Eyed Dragon ordered. After a hail of bullets, these earthworms were all shot dead. Chen Zhao stared at the remains. The smell was too disgusting. "Gaia, how much do you think it'll cost if we catch one alive and sell it to the zoo?" Chapter 747. Chen Zhao's eyes widened. Pointing at Cyclops, he said angrily, "You can't wait for me to go get my bento, right? Do you believe that I'll send you to play hardcore with those earthworms first? Since we've come this far with you, it's not a good thing for you or my teammates to die." One-Eyed Dragon tried his best to explain. "I also want the treasure, but we can't let more people die. But I feel like you still want me to go get my bento. The bottom of this poplar forest is filled with soft mud. No one knows how many earthworm monsters are hiding underneath. With the abilities of my team members, as long as the earthworm monsters appear, there will definitely be casualties. Only your ability can guarantee that you will be able to lure the earthworm monsters out without getting injured." Chen Zhao looked at Gaia. Gaia thought for a moment and asked, "Are you confident?" "Whatever, I'll go." Chen Zhao was helpless. Since Gaia also thought that it could be done, then he would go. Chen Zhao took a deep breath and suddenly stepped out. With a whoosh, he charged out. Seeing Chen Zhao's figure, everyone couldn't help but sigh. Chen Zhao was really too fast. He was like a gust of wind. Chen Zhao felt a vibration under his feet. As soon as he lifted his foot, an earthworm crawled out and bit at him. But Chen Zhao didn't stop. He continued sprinting forward. Another earthworm was lured out, but it still missed. Nevertheless, they didn't give up chasing Chen Zhao. Instead, they crawled under the rotten leaves on the ground. They weren't slow either. Usually, earthworms fed on organic matter and wouldn't attack living things. Of course, these earthworms couldn't be judged by normal standards. They were all monsters controlled and twisted by that Gaia. They were far more aggressive than normal creatures. "That guy runs too fast. Compared to normal people, he's a monster too." These earthworms sensed the movement of animals on the ground through the vibrations. Therefore, if there were earthworms near Chen Zhao, they would definitely be attracted. They were also very persistent about their prey and kept chasing him. Chen Zhao ran one round in the forest. The earthworms behind him were like a wave. Cyclops saw Chen Zhao charging toward him and raised his hand. "You guys better be careful," Gaia reminded them. One-Eyed Dragon and the others were definitely not good people. Gaia's words were a reminder to them. If Cyclops wanted to use this opportunity to get rid of Chen Zhao, she wouldn't be polite either. Cyclops' eyes flashed. In the end, he waited until Chen Zhao pounced toward the hard ground before ordering to fire. Although these earthworm monsters had become very terrifying, they had no thoughts and could only act according to their instincts. They did not understand what a trap was. Boom, boom, boom. Da-da-da. In a burst of gunfire, dozens of earthworm monsters were torn apart by the guns. Roar! Suddenly the ground arched, and a super earthworm monster drilled out of the ground. So big! Everyone's eyes widened. The earthworm monster charged towards the crowd. Chen Zhao raised his arm and tossed a grenade into the super earthworm's mouth. Bang! The super earthworm monster was dead. Everyone was dumbfounded. Shouldn't it be the boss? Chen Zhao was also confused. I was just testing it. Why was it so weak? I don't feel any sense of accomplishment. Indeed, even Cyclops and the others felt that this thing was not as good as its underlings. No one would feel any sense of accomplishment. It was such a failure. It had appeared so excited, but it was finished by a grenade. Chen Zhao ran to the head of the exploded earthworm. Gaia, take a photo with it. I'm going to show Fei Lai my achievement when we get back. One of the team members also ran over, wanting to take a photo with the broken part of the earthworm. However, at that moment, the broken section of the earthworm suddenly arched towards that team member. The flesh at the broken part forcefully fused with the team member. Ah! Save me. I don't want to die. Ah! As the team member kept fusing with the earthworm, he also started becoming deformed. All of you have to die. Ah! However, what greeted him was a hail of bullets from his former teammates. The deformed team member and the earthworm boss were all turned into meat paste. By the way, other than looking scary, what's the use of this thing? Having just lost a team member, Cyclops and the others could not be happy at all. The team continued forward, but 8 people were already dead. This meant that if 5 more people got their bento boxes, the thing would come out. Let's rest for a while, Cyclops said. The team was clearly in low spirits. If they could not adjust their mentality, they would not be able to continue. When everyone sat down, Chen Zhao stood there alone. Chun, don't you want to sit down and rest? Gaia asked. Let's sit there and eat something. Chen Zhao looked at everyone and felt that something was wrong. Did you find something? Gaia asked. Cyclops team members were all sitting on the ground or leaning against a tree to eat. Suddenly, Chen Zhao walked to the team member leaning against the tree. Open your mouth. I want to check you. Everyone looked at Chen Zhao and the team member. It had already been agreed that as long as anyone had a suspect, they could conduct an examination on anyone. The person raised his head and put down the food in his hands, staring at Chen Zhao. Trenton, open your mouth, Cyclops said too. Suddenly, Trenton's head split open. His arms became thicker, bursting through his clothes. Unhurriedly, Chen Zhao stuffed a grenade into Trenton's cracked head. Boom! Chen Zhao was covered in minced meat. Everyone rushed to his side. How did you know he was infected? Chen Zhao pointed at the tree Trenton had been leaning against. I didn't find out he was infected. I found out that there's something wrong with the tree behind him. At this moment, lines that looked like blood vessels began to squirm on the trunk of the tree. The originally hard bark also became like fleshy skin, and one eye after another opened. Everyone immediately went forward and threw a grenade at the mutated tree. Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. I suddenly pity this demon called Geyer. Why? Nothing. Chen Zhao saw that Geyer's subordinates were all low-level things. He could not help but think that the supernatural organization he led was also full of trash. Chapter 748. Chen Zhao's mouth had been blessed too. The rest of the journey was also bumpy and difficult. All sorts of demons and monsters appeared. However, Chen Zhao always sympathized with Demon Geyer. Why couldn't he find a few capable subordinates? Cyclops, I think you're quite capable. Why don't you be my subordinate? Why do you have that idea? Because of your looks. If you don't be my subordinate, I feel like you'll become a villain at some point. Let me use my warmth and light to lead you to the path of justice. I've always been a pirate. I don't plan on changing professions in the near future. Okay. Oh, next time you see my ship, remember to stay far away, Chen Zhao said. How far are we? We're here. A canyon appeared before the team. It was more like a crack than a canyon. At the bottom of the crack was boiling lava. I should have learned some fire magic. To be honest, Chen Zhao was a bit afraid of such a situation. He was thick-skinned now, but he still had to get his lunch box if he fell into the lava. The treasure isn't in the lava, right? Chen Zhao asked. If it's in the lava, we can just go back now. It can't be in the lava. The voyage diary said that the treasure would wait for his descendants to open it. This means that the treasure must be somewhere his descendants can reach. Gaia looked at Cyclops. You should be the descendant of the person who hid the treasure, right? Maybe. The one-eyed man shrugged. Then you should know where the treasure is, right? I don't know. I don't even know that there's treasure on this island, Cyclops answered. Suddenly, there was a rustling sound from the grass behind them. Everyone's hair stood on end. No one saw what it was, but they all felt chills down their spines. Chen Zhao's expression also changed. He was the only one who saw it clearly. It was a snake. A huge snake. Gaia, there's a huge snake in the grass. How big? 3 times bigger than what you've seen in the animal world. Gaia already had a very bad feeling about this. Hearing Chen Zhao's words, he felt chills down his spine. Finally, the snake pounced out of the grass. However, it wasn't just the snake that pounced out. There was also an equally large crocodile. Both the snake and the crocodile were more than 20 meters long. Da-da-da. One-eyed dragon, and the others also fired a volley of arrows. Big Snake's movements were extremely agile. With a sidestep, it completely evaded the attacks of One-eyed Dragon and his team. The giant crocodile, on the other hand, relied on its thick skin to resist the attacks. And even the grenades were ineffective against it. A person was knocked down by the crocodile's head and fell into the lava below. The snake charged at Chen Zhao and Gaia. Gaia and Chen Zhao rolled to the left and right, avoiding the snake's attack. But the snake's tail curled up and wrapped Chen Zhao up. Then its huge mouth closed down on Chen Zhao. Chen! Gaia panicked, but Chen Zhao had already been swallowed by the snake. The serpent lunged at Gaia again. Gaia was helpless against such a gigantic creature. At this moment, the snake's abdomen exploded without warning. Boom! Chen Zhao stood up shakily, his face covered in blood. Fuck. Am I that easy to bully? Why does it always attack me? One-eyed Dragon and the others were also fighting the crocodile to the death. Another person was bitten by the crocodile. Only Gurette and One-eyed Dragon were left. Chen Zhao charged at the crocodile and swept its tail at Chen Zhao. But Chen Zhao wasn't swept away. Instead, he grabbed onto the crocodile's tail. Everyone's eyes widened. That didn't even sweep Chen Zhao away? Chen Zhao used all his strength and started spinning the crocodile by its tail. The crocodile was actually moved by Chen Zhao. Everyone lay on the ground, so that they wouldn't be swept by the uncontrollable crocodile. Chen Zhao spun 1.5 rounds and loosened his grip. The crocodile fell into the crack. Everyone sat on the ground, exhausted, gasping for breath. These two are more like it, Chen Zhao murmured. What did they say before? But the feeling of being irritated didn't disappear. Instead, it grew stronger. Do you feel it? Chen Zhao asked. Gaia, One-eyed Dragon, and Gurette all shuddered. It's not the feeling the crocodile and snake gave us. It's something else, One-eyed Dragon said. The sea breeze rustled the plants before them. It was as if something was about to appear. The whistling grew louder and louder. Even the magma below them became violent. It kept tumbling, as if it was about to explode. One-eyed Dragon, how many people died just now? 1, 2, 3. My mind is a bit messed up. That's not right. Last night, including the one you killed, there were 6 of us. This time, including the 2 of you, there were 10 of us. Now there are only 4 of us left. That's not right. According to the information passed down by our ancestors, 1 more person needs to die. Gurette was extremely nervous. Did you guys make a mistake? Or did the number of people who died in the submarine go wrong? No. I can't make a mistake even in my subordinates. One-eyed Dragon's expression became extremely ugly. It's also possible that people died here without you knowing. No one will die here. Any ship that appears in the nearby waters will be monitored by us, One-eyed Dragon said. Then, is it possible that the number of people who died here 60 years ago was wrong? One-eyed Dragon couldn't be sure either. After all, it was something that happened 60 years ago, when his grandfather was still alive. He hadn't been around back then, so he couldn't be sure if his grandfather had made a mistake. Forget it. We don't need to worry about whether the number is right or not, because that thing will appear soon. Maybe we can ask him. Just then, the sky was filled with dark clouds and the wind kept howling. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning fell from the sky and landed on One-eyed Dragon's head. Fuck, what's going on? Gurette, Gaia, and Chen Zhao were all shocked. One-eyed dragon shrieked, but he didn't fall. However, the blindfold he was wearing fell down, and his right eye, which had been covered all this time, was finally revealed. However, everyone realized that his right eye wasn't blind. It was completely undamaged. Slap. Suddenly, Chen Zhao slapped himself hard in the mouth. Chen, what are you doing? Chapter 749. The one-eyed dragon was the last offering. It was a foregone conclusion. Cyclops had no pupil in his right eye. The white part of his pupil was completely red. Has his eye always been like this? Chen Zhao asked. Gurette had clearly guessed the reason too. Her expression was worse than anyone else's. His right eye was taken out when he was young. Then there's no doubt about it. This demon called Gyre has always been in Cyclops' bloodline. A beam of red light suddenly shot out of Cyclops' right eye. The red light hit the ground and started spreading from the center. A magic array appeared. Gradually, a golden crown rose from the center. The golden crown automatically flew to the one-eyed man. The one-eyed man reached out and put the golden crown on his head. Then a golden sword rose from the array and landed in Cyclops' hand again. Then golden pauldrons, golden bracers, and golden boots appeared from the array. Chun, why didn't you stop him? Gaia asked. He's clearly arming himself. He only comes out once every few hundred years. We should give him a chance to show off. Chen Zhao's eyes were filled with greed. These pieces of golden equipment should be worth a lot of money, right? Summon more. Summon more. If it was just these pieces of equipment, they would only be worth $1 million according to the weight of gold. It wasn't even enough for their trip. He looks like a gold saint, Gaia said. No, he looks like a nouveau riche from my hometown. Just then, a majestic golden warhorse rose from the ground. Beautiful, so beautiful. Such a tall horse weighed around 500 kilograms. But this was a golden warhorse. It weighed at least 2 tons. Chun, should we decide how to fight? Demon, listen up. You've been surrounded. Put down your weapon immediately. Get off the warhorse, take off your armor, and shoot your head with both hands. You have the right to remain silent. Your words will be used as evidence in court. Just as Chen Zhao shouted, eyes started appearing on Cyclops' golden armor. Suddenly, all eyes shot out in all directions at the same time. They were shot out like lasers. Chen Zhao immediately used the dark serum to block him and Gaia. Not far away, Gulai let out a blood-curdling scream. Her abdomen had been shot. Seeing that Gurette was in a bad situation, Gaia charged out of the dark serum's range and toward Gurette. She grabbed Gurette and rolled into the grass. Seeing that Gaia was also hit by the red light, Chen Zhao immediately shouted, Gaia, what are you doing? As long as it's within your abilities, you can't abandon any of your teammates. Gaia's voice came from the bushes. How are your injuries? I'm fine. At the moment, Gaia and Gurette were both hiding in the bushes. He didn't know how Gaia was either. Cyclops' laser couldn't penetrate Chen Zhao's dark serum, but it was hard for Chen Zhao to deal with him if he kept shooting around. Hey, the person on the other side, how about we discuss something? You can stop that laser, and I won't use this black thing. It's fair between us. Unfortunately, the one-eyed man didn't respond. He just kept firing his laser. However, the laser couldn't penetrate the dark serum either. The two sides were in a deadlock, and neither could do anything to the other. Bang! Gaia fired a shot from the bushes and broke the balance. Cyclops' laser finally stopped. He turned to look at Gaia. Suddenly, Cyclops pulled on the reins of his golden warhorse and charged at Gaia. He raised his golden sword and slashed at Gaia. Chen Zhao also charged up and rammed into the warhorse's stomach. Duong! Cyclops and the warhorse were both knocked over by Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao took out his bronze sword. He looked at the golden sword in Cyclops' hand, and then at his own bronze sword. Why did it feel inferior? That wasn't right. His bronze sword was a relic, so it wasn't much inferior. The golden warhorse raised its legs and stomped down at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao slashed with his bronze sword, but it couldn't break the warhorse's hooves. Suddenly, Cyclops' laser shot over again. This time, it hit Chen Zhao's body. Thankfully, Chen Zhao was covered in Qingyi armor, so the laser couldn't break through his defense. However, the high temperature still made Chen Zhao feel unbearable pain. Chen Zhao controlled the dark serum, and sent it surging toward Cyclops. Chen Zhao's control of the dark serum wasn't as terrifying as Samuel's, but he had his own ways. The knives he'd picked up earlier were finally put to use. The dark serum coiled around dozens of knives. They slashed at Cyclops's head like a meat grinder. This demon doesn't seem very strong. He's just average, Chen Zhao sighed. But just then, the golden warhorse charged over and stomped on Chen Zhao's back. Chen Zhao stumbled a few steps and turned around to pull on the horse's reins. The warhorse neighed, but it couldn't break free. It wasn't as strong as Chen Zhao, so it couldn't break free. But just then, wings suddenly opened on the warhorse's back. Chen Zhao, Gaia, and Guret were all dumbfounded. Was this even possible? The warhorse flapped its wings and flew into the sky, dragging Chen Zhao up too. When Chen Zhao wanted to let go again, he was already dozens of meters in the air. If it came crashing down, it would really kill him. Brother horse, let's talk. Let's go down, okay? I'm afraid of heights. But the warhorse didn't budge at all. It flew higher and higher. When it was about 300 or 400 meters in the air, it couldn't go any higher. The warhorse suddenly retracted its wings and landed vertically. Fuck. I went too far. Countless scenes flashed through Chen Zhao's mind. I'm already recalling my life. Am I really going to die? The scene in Chen Zhao's mind suddenly froze. It stopped at the night of the battle in Lewis's manor. It stopped at the scene of the battle with Matriarch. The next moment, all the dark serum gathered behind Chen Zhao. Wings come out. Dark wings unfurled from Chen Zhao's back. The wings were just a prototype. They couldn't move like real wings, but they could serve as a buffer. Chen Zhao's descending speed was indeed much slower. He could even glide. Chen Zhao glided in the air. Although he wasn't really flying, he felt an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. Chen Zhao circled around. He was getting more and more familiar with the wings. Suddenly, he raised his arms and grabbed his sword. Then he dove toward Cyclops. The sword was like a rainbow piercing through the sun. His body was like an arrow leaving a bow. Chapter 750. Cyclops raised his sword and faced the attack. Chen Zhao had already swooped down. Everything happened too quickly. The golden sword in Cyclops' hand was cut in half. The blade streaked forward like lightning. Cyclops' golden armor was also cut in half. The one-eyed man's shoulder was also chopped off. Holding the golden sword, Chen Zhao pressed Cyclops under his body with the blade. Reality proves that weapons and armor made from gold are useless. A nouveau riche will always be a nouveau riche. For a moment, Cyclops' eyes became clear. He looked at Chen Zhao miserably. I'm not. Gaia. You're not Gaia? Chen Zhao looked up at Gaia and Guret. He said he's not Gaia. Cyclops' blood flowed on the magic formation. An aura started emanating from the formation. It was like a heartbeat. Rise, fall, the golden warhorse neighed. It seemed to feel fear too. Gradually, 3 huge heads drilled out of the ground. Chen Zhao, Gaia, and Guret finally had a thought. This was more in line with the setting of a sealed demon. The demon had 3 brown dragon heads and a snake-like neck. Its lower body was still in the magic formation. Gaia, get ready to run, Chen Zhao called without thinking. Wait. Chen Zhao stopped Gaia, who was about to pull Guret up. Take this golden warhorse too. It's our travel fee. The warhorse looked at Chen Zhao and Gaia. The two also looked at the horse. The warhorse suddenly spread its wings and soared into the sky. Fuck. You coward. You're running away. But just then, a dragon head spat out a mouthful of flames at the warhorse in the sky. Boom. The warhorse fell to the ground and was smashed. See, if you didn't run, we could still be good friends. Just then, the 3-headed dragon's lower body slowly appeared from the magic formation. The lower half of the 3-headed dragon was a long snake that was 40 meters long. Chen, what do we do now? Chen Zhao took a step forward and said to the 3-headed dragon, Gaia, let's talk about something. Why don't you go your own way and I'll go my own way? We won't have anything to do with each other? The 3-headed dragon opened its mouth, and the middle head said, Human, it's been a long time since I've eaten a living person. You 3, give me 1 head each. Chen Zhao turned around helplessly. Negotiation failed. Prepare for war. How do we fight this thing? Gaia asked. I don't know. If we can beat them, we'll fight. If we can't, we'll run. Chen Zhao took 2 steps forward and looked at the 3-headed dragon. Can we have some foreplay or something? I'm not used to being so direct. For example, you want to play a game of cat and mouse and give us 3 minutes to escape. That's right. The 3-headed dragon didn't care about anything else. It just gave Chen Zhao a mouthful of poisonous dragon breath. Huge flames rushed toward Gaia. Realizing that something was wrong, Gaia immediately lunged at Chen Zhao. Bang! The dragon's breath exploded on Gaia's body. The scorching flames almost scorched half of Gaia's body. Gaia, what are you doing? You're relatives, right? Why don't you have any resistance? Half of Gaia's body was scorched, but he was tough. Miscalculation. I thought I'd be fine too. Turns out, this thing's flames are much stronger than mine. I can tell from your body size that there's a huge difference between you two. Don't be like this, okay? The battle had just started, but he'd already lost a fighter. Chen Zhao was very upset. I'll cheer for you from the side. Gaia was still in the mood to joke. Chen Zhao could only bite the bullet and look at the thick-necked Gaia. At the same time, he said to Gaia, Gaia, can you close your eyes for 10 seconds? What for? I'm going to use a big move. This is my secret. I can't let outsiders see. Fine. Chen Zhao looked back. Seeing that Gaia had closed his eyes, he immediately activated his clone. Uft. Chen Zhao looked back and saw Gaia, who was leaning against the rock behind him, panting with laughter. Looking at his 2 naked clones, he was instantly enraged. Didn't you say you close your eyes? Chen Zhao took out 2 sets of clothes similar to his, and had his 2 clones put them on. Charge! Gaia's tail swept over, sending Chen Zhao and his 2 clones flying. The next moment, Chen Zhao leaped high into the air with the bronze sword in his hand. The dragon head on the left bit Chen Zhao's body. Ah, Chen! Gaia yelled nervously. The next moment, the dragon head also cried out. Feeling the burning pain in his mouth, he could only let go of Chen Zhao. Angelic Crystal! Chen Zhao had a big killing weapon, Angelic Crystal. Chen Zhao fell to the ground. He was covered in wounds too, but this was only one of his clones. The other 2 Chen Zhaos walked over. If you're going to die, do it quickly, Chen Zhao's real body complained. You're making us both uncomfortable. The clones shared their feelings with the real body, and the real body's feelings would also be shared with the clones. Why don't you give me a quick death? The clone asked. No. It feels weird to kill myself. Why don't you do it? Chen Zhao looked at the other clone. Both clones were clearly controlled by him, but when he was controlling them, they seemed to have their own emotions. He was talking to himself, but it seemed like he was talking to another person. Why don't you do it yourself? I'm the real body. If the real body does everything, why would I need you guys? Here, drink this. Chen Zhao squatted down and poured medicine into the clone's mouth. What's this? Chen Zhao grinned. The clone immediately sensed that something was wrong. Can I greet your ancestor? My ancestor isn't your ancestor, Chen Zhao said. Don't mind so much. Someone has to be sacrificed. I can't drink anymore, the heavily injured clone said in pain. That's enough, the other clone said. I feel terrible seeing him like that too. It's really weird talking to myself, Chen Zhao said. Okay, let's begin, Chen Zhao's real body said. The 3-headed dragon Gaia was furious. The angelic crystal had brought him great pain. I'll kill you. Chen Zhao looked at Gaia, his eyes also glowing fiercely. Come if you can. Gaia's 3 dragon heads charged toward Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao suddenly grabbed the heavily injured clone and smashed it at one of the dragon heads. This time, Gaia wouldn't be stupid enough to bite the clone in case he got ambushed again. As for this doppelganger, it was completely fine after smashing into Gaia's dragon head. It was like a pebble had hit his head. Chapter 751. The clone clawed at Gaia's mouth. Open your mouth, open your mouth. Eat me. Gaia didn't open his mouth. Instead, he charged toward Chen Zhao's real body and the clone. Chen Zhao's real body and clone also charged toward the other 2 dragon heads. The clone held the bronze sword, while a torpedo suddenly appeared in Chen Zhao's real body's hand. The torpedo was 2 meters long and weighed 600 kilograms. However, this torpedo could overturn a destroyer. Before Chen Zhao came to the island, he'd dived with Cyclops and the others to get the torpedo from the submarine. Chen Zhao had done it just in case. He just didn't think he'd actually use it. Transfer. Chen Zhao's real body and clone suddenly switched places. He let the clone take the torpedo and die with Geyer. Rumble, a huge explosion swept in all directions with shockwaves. Chen Zhao was also blown away. Geyer's left dragon head was blasted into pieces. Blood rained down from the sky. This explosion was a heavy blow to Geyer as well. The pain made him struggle and roar. The clone, who'd been grabbing Geyer's middle dragon head, walked right into the trap and stuffed himself into Geyer's mouth. The clone's body was already filled with angelic crystals. Right now, he was like a soldering iron stuck in Geyer's throat. He couldn't go in or out. Chen Zhao didn't waste time. He'd kill him while he was down. Even though he was dizzy from the fall, he still grabbed the bronze sword and charged at Geyer. He stabbed at Geyer's rightmost dragon head. The bronze sword was covered with the dark serum, turning into a large black sword. It pierced through the left side of the dragon head, turning Geyer's only intact dragon head into a mutton skewer. Geyer's tail swayed wildly, but it couldn't hit Chen Zhao. Finally, after struggling for a few minutes, Geyer finally calmed down. Just then, Chen Zhao saw Gaia lying not far away. She was drinking blood from Geyer's wound on the ground. Gaia, you can't be possessed, right? Do you need me to send you on your last journey? Fuck, he's a dragon. I can feel his blood resonating with the blood in my body. Guret's face was filled with shock. He had watched the entire battle between Chen Zhao and Geyer. She and Gaia were just bystanders. But Chen Zhao killed the mutated Cyclops and the final boss, Guile, all by himself. He had done it all by himself. The dragon blood in front of Gaia gathered into a pool of blood, and Gaia directly lay down in the pool. Chen Zhao walked up to Gaia. The burnt skin on Gaia's body seemed to be falling off by itself. Chen Zhao was exhausted too. He sat down beside Gaia. Gaia, how are you now? Gaia looked at Chen Zhao, and then at Geyer. You actually killed this kind of monster. I was lucky this time. I might not be so lucky the next time I encounter such a monster. After resting for a while, Gaia's injuries gradually improved, but his body was still very weak. Chen Zhao bandaged Guret's wound. Because it was getting dark, they were too lazy to go out, so they decided to rest here for the night. Chen Zhao took out some food, but he secretly took some of Geyer's meat. He wasn't sure if Geyer's meat could be eaten. No matter how much dragon blood Geyer had, he was still a dragon. For example, wyvern meat only contained a bit of dragon blood. Normal people couldn't eat it anymore. Not to mention a demon that was clearly of a higher level than wyverns. Chen Zhao picked up the Sun King gold chalice and put it away. As for the rest of the gold, Chen Zhao gave Guret 20% as per their agreement. Guret heaved a sigh of relief. If Chen Zhao went back on his words, she probably couldn't do anything. Moreover, even if he became the public enemy of all pirates, he might not be afraid. At least, there wasn't anyone among the pirates who could kill Geyer. What a pity. That golden warhorse fell to the ground. If it's alive, it'll definitely be worth more than dead. This is clearly a supernatural creature. You dare to sell it? Fine, it's just a random thought. Chen Zhao shrugged. The government wouldn't let them sell supernatural creatures. After all, the government had always suppressed supernatural incidents. The three slept at the edge of the crack that night. Nothing happened on the way back to the boat. Where do you want us to take you? Chen Zhao asked Guret. Hawaii, Guret said. Hawaii was the largest island in the Hawaiian archipelago. It was twice the size of the other islands combined. The difference between Zittauer and Hawaii was like sesame and watermelon. Zittauer was very close to Hawaii, less than 200 nautical miles away. In less than 2 hours the boat reached Hawaii. When Guret got off the boat, someone had already come to pick her up. Guret looked at Gaia. Gaia, you saved me, but don't think that our grudge is over. You can find me for revenge anytime, Gaia said nonchalantly. Chen Zhao looked at Guret's back. Another tsundere. Anyway, this had nothing to do with him. Gaia didn't want to kill Guret, so he didn't have to do it. I'll take 60% and you take 40%, Chen Zhao said. I didn't contribute that much. Gaia shook her head. Take it, Chen Zhao said. Don't you want to buy a boat like mine? With this, you can definitely afford it. Gaia smiled bitterly and didn't refuse. I'm afraid that even if I can afford it, I won't be able to keep it. Chen Zhao had underlings, but she didn't. The boat was on the water and needed regular care. For example, waxing the boat and getting rid of bugs and other attachments. She also needed to keep a HNA team. Gaia couldn't afford it. Chen Zhao and Gaia had roughly calculated the total amount of gold this time. The total weight was close to 2 tons, and Gurette got 20%. She took around 400 kilograms of gold. About 1,600 kilograms was left. Gaia, do you know the buyer who handled the gold? You can't do this. It's too shady. You have to take at least 30%. Gaia shook her head. Hearing this, Chen Zhao's teeth hurt. Gaia and Chen Zhao weren't a couple, but they were close friends. In front of prophets, Chen Zhao didn't want to take it all for himself. Even though Chen Zhao had done the most, Gaia still got such a large share. So, Gaia told Chen Zhao the truth. She had her ways, but what about those underground money houses or money launderers? Why would they help you convert gold into cash? It was because they had a high commission. According to the current international gold price, a ton of gold was around $50 million. Their gold would be around $80 million. But if they used illegal channels, they had to deduct the commission from the middleman. So it would be good if they could get 70 million in the end. Chapter 752. On the way back, Chen Zhao and Gaia studied the Sun King Golden Chalice. Gaia took it from Chen Zhao. Is this the Sun King Golden Chalice? It's said that if you pour wine into the chalice and drink it, you'll obtain a witch's powerful magic, Chen Zhao said. But the price is that your soul will be devoured by the chalice after death. Gaia had come into contact with the supernatural world. She knew that losing control of one's soul after death would be very scary. The Sun King Golden Chalice was very beautiful. It didn't look like metal that had been corroded in the air for hundreds of years. Forget it. Gaia shook her head. I've already achieved my goal by going out to sea with you. It wasn't that they'd found the treasure, but that Gaia had become stronger. She'd received the baptism of the three-headed dragon's blood. She could clearly feel that she was indeed stronger than before. Fei Lai, I'm back. On the sea. Chen Zhao couldn't wait to call Fei Lai to inform her. So fast. It's only the 3rd day. I found the treasure, of course I'm back. How was it? Did it go well with you and Gaia? It was very smooth. Other than encountering a few carnivores that don't have eyes, there was no other danger. Gaia glanced at Chen Zhao. She knew that he didn't want Fei Lai to know about the danger they'd encountered. Gaia set off from Chen Zhao's house, and also disembarked from here. They weren't in a hurry to sell the gold. Gaia told Chen Zhao to contact people first. In the evening, Fei Lai returned with her family. Seeing Chen Zhao, Fei Lai couldn't wait to pounce on him. Chen Zhao only went to shower when Fei Lai couldn't move anymore. After that, he summoned Samuel and the other demons to the front yard. Look, what's this? Chen Zhao took out Gaia's body. Abidos went forward to tear Gaia's body apart. Abidos and Gaia were both very interested in Gaia's body. Clearly, it was because of their dragon bloodline. This is the aura of an alternative dragon. Its bloodline is very close to dragons. Judging from the aura, it should have existed in the human world for thousands of years. Samuel was the first to conclude. How can you tell? Chen Zhao didn't understand. For him to be able to reach this level of strength, he must have spent a long time. The restraints of the rules on him have gradually weakened, and his own strength has gradually increased. Just like Black Ma and White Ma, after 1,000 years, Black Ma and White Ma might become as strong as this WIRM. Samuel nodded. Can they live that long? Not now, but if they can continue to grow, they might be able to grow to the same level as this flood dragon. Is this corpse useful to them? It's most effective for Abidos. Beelzebub, Raymond, Carrie, and Amon are all projections. They're not very useful. I don't need to talk about me. Even if you feed me pure-blooded dragons, it'll be meaningless. Can ordinary people eat it? No, Samuel said. Right now Abidos was eating happily. Chen Zhao did not stop him. What about me? It's useful for you, but not much, Samuel said. Your body is close to a bottleneck. Chen Zhao thought about it. That was indeed the case. After going to hell, he'd performed the devil's birthday sacrifice and opened the Eye of Power. He'd improved greatly. But then, there was almost no improvement for a long time. If Chen Zhao opened the Eye of Power now, his maximum strength would be around 20 tons. For ordinary people, this kind of strength was already superhuman strength. But Chen Zhao still felt that it wasn't enough. How can I break through the bottleneck? I want a shortcut. Don't tell me that I have to constantly put huge pressure on myself. Don't tell me that I have to use near-death methods to break through. Don't let those stupid jokes appear in my life. Samuel suddenly stopped Chen Zhao. Samuel looked at Chen Zhao. Once again, he took over Chen Zhao's control of the dark serum. The dark serum wrapped around Samuel's body, and he began to transform into his original form, a lion with wings. I can't help you with physical strengthening, but you've never truly understood the power you possess. Chen Zhao looked at Samuel, who was wrapped in the dark serum. He'd used the dark serum to wrap the bronze sword before. The bronze sword was indeed much more powerful after being wrapped in the dark serum. But Chen Zhao had never used the dark serum to truly arm himself. Master, in hell, there's a type of demon called the mountain demon, Beelzebub said. They're born with the ability to strengthen their bodies like crazy. They know almost all ways to strengthen their bodies. Are they very powerful? Some are strong and some are weak. They're the subordinates of the King of Power. Is the King of Power on the same level as Samuel? No, it's a secondary demon king, Carrie said. The same level as the Ice Queen. Are mountain demons rare in hell? Yes, and they're usually hired by demon lords. Why? Because they know almost all ways to strengthen their bodies. They can even judge a lord who's much more powerful than them, so they're very popular. Chen Zhao's interest was piqued. Subordinates of the King of Power? I want great power. An extreme desire appeared in Chen Zhao's mind. All the demons around Chen Zhao felt a strange aura around them. Suddenly, a magic array appeared in front of Chen Zhao, above the lake. Summoning ritual. All the demons' gazes froze. They knew that Chen Zhao could summon demon servants. All of them had been summoned by Chen Zhao. Although the process was different, the result was the same. This was Chen Zhao's first active summoning. This was also Chen Zhao's attempt. Chen Zhao wanted to know if his desire was the key to summoning demon servants. Splash! A figure fell out of the magic array and into the lake. Ah! Help! 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 What happened? How come he can't swim? Chen Zhao was surprised. Not all of his demon servants were good at swimming, but they could at least swim. Chen Zhao had thought that demons were like dogs that could swim. Chapter 753. Soon, the demon on the water surface stopped moving. Without Chen Zhao's order, they couldn't be bothered to save their friend from hell. None of them were good people, and they loved each other dearly. Under Chen Zhao's eyes, they behaved like obedient children. But once they left Chen Zhao's sight, they would cause as much trouble as they could. There were all sorts of schemes and deceptions. It was like a palace fight. When the new demon was completely defeated, Chen Zhao had the other demon servants fish him up. Of course, the demon wouldn't die so easily. His appearance was that of a mountain gorilla, and his body was twice the size of a normal mountain gorilla. Every time Chen Zhao summoned a demon, they were all arrogant and had bad personalities. This time, Chen Zhao planned to give the new demon a show of strength. He didn't want the new demon to yell at him for no reason. After an unknown period of time, the demon slowly woke up. But when he looked up, he saw a demon with a terrifying aura standing on a shelf not far away. Although the demon's appearance was short and even insignificant, he did not dare to move. Then the group of demons around him punched and kicked him, tearing and biting him. This round of beating directly stunned the newcomer demon. Stop fighting. You guys stop fighting. The new demon was covered in wounds. Just then Chen Zhao walked over. Do you know where this is? The new demon looked up at Chen Zhao, looking left and right. This is the human world. Then do you know who I am? You are? Chen Zhao threw Geyer's head before the new demon. This guy was a demon I summoned before. He was very disobedient, so I killed him. You're the second demon servant I summoned. The new demon trembled in fear. Geyer's aura was even stronger than his. He felt like he was going to pee his pants. They're all my demon servants. Tell me first, are you a clone or your real body? My real body. Chen Zhao was surprised. It was the real body. Also, the demons he summoned this time seemed to be stronger than the previous ones. Name, age, affiliation, power, hobbies. Ah, slap. I'm asking you questions. Answer honestly. If you hide anything, I'll send you to God. Oh, first of all, I'm your master now. Do you have any questions about that? No. The group of ferocious fiends around him couldn't wait to beat him up again. Those who had questions were now left with a head that was even bigger than him, which was thrown to the side. There must be no doubt. Although his brain was not very good, his instincts were still quite clear. What's it called? Mario Mauser. Chen Zhao wondered if he should give him a more proper name. Forget it, let him call me that. Age. 150 years old, subordinate, king of power. Just like the silly twins Amon, Beelzebub, Carrie and Raymond. They were both low-level demons, but the difference was that he had come in his true form. Of course, there were also strong and weak demons among the low-level demons. Amon's main body was stronger than the other projections, but weaker than them. He was only stronger than the silly twins. As for Samuel, although he was the weakest, his aura was the most terrifying. None of them dared to offend Samuel. Even Abitos, who was the most simple-minded, did not dare to offend him. To put it bluntly, Mario was a big idiot with all brawn and no brain. Can you see my physical strength? Chen Zhao asked. Yes, Mario answered directly. Then how's my strength compared to yours? Very close, Mario answered. Be more specific. Am I stronger or are you stronger? Me, Mario answered carefully, not forgetting to sneak a glance at Chen Zhao. How much stronger? Close to 10%, Mario answered. Then do you have a way to increase my strength? Chen Zhao asked. Yes. Mario's gaze seemed to see through Chen Zhao completely. Even Samuel had never seen such a look in his eyes. Sure enough, as expected of the mountain demon, his brain didn't even have to bend to give an affirmative answer. What do I need to do? Master, when you increase your strength, can you give me a portion too? Mario looked at Chen Zhao fawningly. Chen Zhao rubbed his chin. Tell me the method first. There are at least 100 ways to increase your strength. Chen Zhao almost spat. That many? Yes, different methods will have different effects, and different effects will have different effects on the future. Give me an example, Chen Zhao said. The simplest method is for me to stimulate your potential directly. You can increase your strength by at least 3 times, but you won't have the chance to increase your strength in the future. Chen Zhao thought about it. This meant that this was a one-time method, and there was no way out. So I'm using the same method as you. Our bodies are similar, and our strength levels are the same, so I can use the method you used. However, our potential values are different, so after this our growth methods will be different too. Okay, tell me first. What do you need to do? You need the power of lightning. I'll use a magic array to guide the lightning to your body. Is it dangerous? No. The success rate is 80%. Yes, 80% is very high. Chen Zhao nodded. If it fails, remember to cut him into pieces. Mario shuddered. He'd almost forgotten that his human master was cruel by nature. He started regretting it again. It seemed like he'd come up with a bad idea. What materials do you need? I need 10 demon horns, preferably large ones. The bigger the better, Mario said. Also the blood of a black goat, a tuft of a human woman's hair. Some of the materials Mario mentioned could only be found in hell, while others could be found in the human world. There was nothing he couldn't get. Chen Zhao had all the materials that could be found in hell. When he'd received Logan Samuel's assets, many of them were demon horns. However, Mario said that he needed to see the large demon horns. Chen Zhao didn't recognize the horns, so he needed Beelzebub and the others to help him identify them. It wasn't that the larger the demon's horns, the larger the demon's body. Some demons were small in size, but their horns were huge. Chapter 754. Can this magic array only be used once? Mario lowered his head. Somewhat flustered, he said, twice. Exactly twice? Chen Zhao tapped the stone table with his finger. Mario felt his heart skip a beat. Master, I was wrong. As long as I have 5 demon horns, I can use it once. In fact, I want double the materials I asked for just now. Chen Zhao finally understood that Mario wasn't just afraid of water. He was also a coward. He was also the type that wanted to do something, but didn't have the guts. Chen Zhao had only questioned him once, and he'd chickened out immediately. His mentality wasn't good enough. Chen Zhao had to find a chance to teach him a lesson. The next morning, Fei Lai realized that there was a mountain gorilla in front of her house. Chen, what's with that gorilla? Why is it hanging upside down on the lake? Mario was hung on a simple pole. If the other end used a bit more strength and lifted at night, Mario would have to go down to drink from the lake. It wasn't that Mario couldn't break free. He just didn't dare to. Chen Zhao had said that if he dared to break free, he'd be fed to the fish. A new little rascal, Chen Zhao said, chuckling. Fei Lai was overflowing with love. She went out and put Mario down. Poor little guy. Fei Lai touched Mario's head. From now on, you'll be called King Kong. Chen Zhao stood by the door and looked at Mario, who'd officially changed his name to King Kong. From now on, you'll be called King Kong. Also, she's your mistress. King Kong finally witnessed Chen Zhao's cruelty. Because he'd lied last night, he'd been hung on the lake for an entire night. King Kong knelt down and kowtowed to Fei Lai. He didn't know any etiquette anyway. Kowtowing was definitely the right thing to do. Chun, you scared it quite a bit. Look at how scared it is. He's too naughty. If I don't teach him a lesson, he might not know who's in charge. Don't hurt him anymore. We shouldn't teach him like this. Fine, whatever you say. Chen Zhao nodded. Smiling, Chen Zhao looked at King Kong. Come to my side. King Kong finally learned his lesson. He didn't dare to disobey Chen Zhao anymore. I'll bring him to work, Fei Lai said. Let me teach him. She was worried. Maybe Chen Zhao was torturing King Kong behind her back. King Kong is very afraid of water. If you bring it to Angel Beach, it will be so scared that it will pee itself. Ah, is Vajra afraid of water? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. Alright then, you really can't abuse it anymore. Okay, I won't abuse it anymore. It's enough to teach it a lesson for one night. It should learn to be obedient. Fei Lai only went to work after Chen Zhao's repeated promises. As soon as Fei Lai left, King Kong was terrified. He could see that his mistress could protect him. His master, on the other hand, was dangerous, extremely dangerous. Forget it. I won't make things difficult for you. In the future, if you dare to lie to me again, just tell me first. Then it won't be as simple as hanging you for a night. I'll just chop you up. Chen Zhao tossed a demonic crystal to King Kong as a form of compensation for last night's trauma. As soon as King Kong received the demonic crystal, before he could rejoice, the tigers and wolves had already surrounded him. Chen Zhao kicked Black Ma away. Fuck off. This is only his first demonic crystal. Are you going to steal it? Master, if we don't steal the first one, does that mean we can steal it in the future? King Kong, you have to understand the dangers of the workplace. Remember to protect the demonic crystals you get in the future. If it's stolen or robbed, don't come crying to me. King Kong shuddered. Dangers of the workplace? Just then, Chen Zhao received West's call. President, are you free now? What? Can you come over? West's tone was rather serious. Sure, I'll go. Chen Zhao glanced at King Kong. King Kong had just arrived, so he had to explain some rules to him. So, Chen Zhao brought all the pets into the car and drove to the headquarters of the association. When they arrived, King Kong alighted from the car. When Aduz saw King Kong's figure, he immediately exclaimed, "Such a big gorilla." King Kong was about 3 times the weight of a regular mountain gorilla. After his weight measurement last night, he weighed 600 kilograms. However, compared to Princess 1,500 kilograms, there was still some difference. King Kong's figure was indeed frightening. Nevertheless, Aduz knew that Chen Zhao's pets were all very smart, so he wasn't afraid. But just as he was about to go up and pat King Kong immediately roared. Roar! Scared, Aduz fell to the ground. Chen Zhao kicked King Kong's butt. In the future, as long as I don't think it's an enemy, don't show any hostility. Do you understand? King Kong immediately lowered his head like a child who had done something wrong, looking wronged. Chen Zhao helped Aduz up. Are you okay? I'm fine. This guy just came to my house. He doesn't know many rules. Aduz nodded with a bitter smile. He didn't dare to lose his temper with Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao brought his family into the headquarters. Just then, West hurried to Chen Zhao. When he saw King Kong, he was still shocked, but he quickly recovered. President, you called me here in such a hurry. What's the matter? President, look at this data. Chen Zhao took the data and glanced at it. Is this the recent rainfall in America? Yes, take a look. Starting from New York City, this line extends from Washington in the northeast, all the way to San Diego here. The rainfall is constantly increasing. Almost every few days, the rainfall in nearby cities will be higher than the previous city. Chen Zhao looked at the document. San Diego has a storm? Yes. It's been a storm for 3 days. There's a certain amount of water. It's a serious disaster. Is it in San Diego already? San Diego was less than 200 kilometers away from Los Angeles. If San Diego had a storm, it wouldn't be peaceful in Los Angeles. Therefore, this storm was clearly unusual. President, I think that no, the source of depravity might come to Los Angeles earlier. Chen Zhao looked at the data. After a long silence, he asked, do you have a way to notify the L.A. government? Tell them to prepare to drain the floodwaters. President, before this, we have contacted several surrounding cities through the anti-terrorism department. San Diego is one of them. San Diego is also prepared, but in the end, there was still a flood. It seems that every city's sewer and drainage system will be blocked during a rainstorm. According to your estimation, when will he arrive? Chapter 755. Are there any cities nearby that have thunderstorms? I need to check the weather report. Okay, tell me as soon as possible. Oh, can the association do artificial rain? Chen Zhao asked. President, artificial rain is very expensive. Plus, we can't just rain in the city. We can only do it at sea. President, what do you want to do? Nothing, Chen Zhao said calmly. Practicing a spell. Oh, President, this is Gaia's request for weapons. Take a look and see if you agree. Isn't it just a request for weapons? What's there to disagree about? Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. She's applying for $200,000. Whoosh! Don't tell me she wants a weapon made of pure gold. That expensive? It's not pure gold, but it's close, West said. She wants a greatsword made of magic metal. Chen Zhao flipped open the request. Gaia wanted a greatsword that was 2 meters long and weighed 900 kilograms. 1/3 of it was made of magic metal. This meant that she needed at least 300 kilograms of magic metal. Most of the 300 kilograms of magic metal were very precious materials. The main reason was that these materials were very expensive. Agree. Gaia is the association's main fighting force now. Her request isn't too much, Chen Zhao said. Oh, I need it too. When you make weapons for Gaia, make one for me too. I'll pay for it myself, okay? Chen Zhao spat. President, that's not what I mean. That's what you mean, Chen Zhao said, annoyed. Fine, go do it. Right now, Charlotte and Cindy were about to go crazy from the whispers in their ears. However, they hadn't been sitting around waiting for death these few days. It's done, Charlotte exclaimed happily. Cindy immediately perked up. Is it done? Yes, it's finally done. Charlotte nodded and placed 2 paper figures on the table. Can this spell really be used? A few years ago, an Eastern witch from the Witch Society taught me the substitution technique. Unfortunately, that witch later returned to the East, Charlotte said. Come, pull out a strand of your hair and tie it to this. 10 minutes later, Charlotte and Cindy walked out the door. An elite had been watching outside the door. When he saw them come out, he immediately became vigilant. Normally, an elite West more and more took turns to be in charge of surveillance. At this time, Charlotte and Cindy came to Angelite's window. Hi, Elite, we are going to the supermarket. Do you want to come? After days of surveillance, they both knew of each other's existence. English and the supernatural organization weren't professional stalkers, so their surveillance was basically above board. Anyway, as long as they didn't leave their sight, Charlotte and Cindy could go wherever they wanted. Elite smiled. Of course. Why don't you drive us to the supermarket? You're coming anyway, and we're too lazy to drive. Angelit didn't object. It would be uncomfortable to follow behind their car, so he might as well drive them there. After they got in the car, Angelit drove to the supermarket. What are you going to buy at the supermarket? Angelit asked. The two of them stopped talking and just sat in the back seat, looking out the window. They must be in a bad mood. Angelit knew that they must be in a bad mood after being watched for so many days. Angelit started to drive seriously, but after driving for a while, he found a problem. Their bodies seemed a little strange. Angelit adjusted the rearview mirror. What's going on? Miss Charlotte. Miss Cindy. Angelit suddenly stopped the car. Miss Charlotte. Angelit reached out to press Charlotte's body. Suddenly, like a deflated balloon, Charlotte's body shriveled, while Cindy remained in her original position. Something had indeed gone wrong. Angelit was very unfamiliar with this spell, but he was sure that it was some kind of spell. Angelit touched Cindy again, and indeed, Cindy shriveled up too. His face ashen, Angelit picked up the phone. Hello, President. I think I lost Charlotte and Cindy. Charlotte and Cindy successfully escaped Los Angeles. This time, they didn't take a plane, a car, or a train. Instead, they rented a boat and went to sea directly. They had already bought tickets for the cruise. A cruise ship had been docked at the port of Los Angeles for 3 days and would leave tonight. Of course, before that, they had prepared many travel plans, including cars, trains, and planes. They hadn't decided on how to leave Los Angeles. Instead, they just decided to take the cruise, because only if they weren't sure themselves would their movements not be divined. That was also the shortcoming of divination. It couldn't accurately grasp the uncertain future. When the cruise left Los Angeles, they could clearly feel that the mental pressure had suddenly decreased a lot. The cruise's next stop was San Francisco, where it would dock for 2 days before heading to Terresco. Then it would turn to Hawaii and sail to Southeast Asia. That was also Charlotte and Cindy's destination. Compared to the West, the supernatural forces in the East were stronger. For example, the source of the fallen could do whatever it wanted in the West, but it might not dare to cross the ocean to the East to cause trouble. Of course, going to the East didn't mean that it was absolutely safe. Even if they went to the East, some Eastern forces would investigate their background and goal. The sea breeze was a bit strong. Only Charlotte and Cindy were on the spacious deck. Looking at the vast sea, the two were somewhat disappointed. Charlotte, what should we do after we go to the East? I've already contacted a force on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. I'm going there to be a magic instructor and teach Western magic, Charlotte said. Will we never be able to come back? We betrayed the source of the fallen, and then we betrayed Chun. Now we're completely cornered. No matter who wins, we're destined to be hated by them. No matter who it is, we won't be able to fight back unless we become stronger. Just then, a woman suddenly ran over from the deck, followed by another woman. Chapter 756. The woman chasing after him just stood there coldly. Go ahead. If you jump down from here, it'll save me a lot of trouble. Charlotte and Cindy watched the melodramatic scene before them. The girl sitting on the railing. You can just jump down or jump down. Why don't you just come down? The hearts of the audience like us are shaking along with you. Rossetti, you weren't like this before. The girl sitting on the railing was very sad, tears streaming down her face. You had the chance to be with me, but you gave up the chance Master gave you. Charlotte and Cindy exchanged glances. They had a vague feeling. The woman called Rossetti was very similar to them. She was like a witch controlled by the fallen source. She was filled with coldness towards the past, without any ripples. Giselle, you have one last chance. Go back with me, and pledge your loyalty to the director. I will never pledge my loyalty to that demon. He killed your mother, Rossetti. How can you do this? From the moment she refused to serve the director, she was no longer my mother. Giselle couldn't understand what kind of magic that demon had. Why had he turned her senior sister into a different person? He was so cruel that it made people's hair stand on end. Even when her own mother was killed, he was still so cold and heartless. Charlotte and Cindy, on the other hand, knew how they felt about Rossetti, because they had also become such people. That twisted way of thinking had already turned them into another kind of person. I will never conspire with you. Even if I die, I will fight that demon to the end. One day I will kill him. Just then, Rossetti's palms flashed with electricity. Looks like you've given up your last chance. Rossetti pointed at Giselle. Then you can die. Hey, did you guys forget about us? Cindy suddenly reminded. Rossetti and Giselle turned to look at Charlotte and Cindy. It wasn't that they didn't see them, but that they had treated them as ordinary people. Giselle felt that after she was killed, they would also be silenced. But just then, a water ball suddenly appeared above Rossetti's head. The water ball fell and enveloped Rossetti within it. Rossetti struggled violently. The water ball was pure water, and she couldn't breathe at all. At the same time, a stone awl appeared behind the water ball. Poochie! The stone awl pierced through Rossetti's body. Then she lost consciousness. You killed her? You killed Rossetti? Giselle was caught off guard by the sudden turn of events. A moment ago, Rossetti wanted to kill her, but the next moment, it was Rossetti who died. What? Are you pitying her? She wants to kill you. Charlotte coldly looked at Giselle. Giselle hesitated for a long time. She looked at Charlotte and Cindy's eyes. Suddenly, Giselle's expression changed. You are the same as Rossetti. You are also fallen. That's right, us too. Charlotte did not deny it. But why? If you're the same as Rossetti, why did you kill her? Because we got rid of its control, Charlotte said calmly. You can get rid of control after turning into a fallen? Giselle looked at the two women in confusion. Of course. We're an example. How did you do it? Did you use some special magic? No, because our situation is a bit special. The source of the fallen was once injured, which greatly weakened its control over us. If you want to see the result, go to Los Angeles. Perhaps there's someone there who can fulfill your desire for revenge. Of course, that person might not be able to stop the source of the fallen. Los Angeles. There's an abnormally powerful being there. He once defeated the source of the fallen, and the source of the fallen hates him to the core. The source of the fallen has been hunting and corrupting witches all over the place just to fight him, Charlotte said. Giselle's eyes flickered as she looked at Charlotte and Cindy. She doubted their words. Giselle had a deep understanding of the terrifying source of the fallen. It was a terrifying existence that had never been seen before. There was no one who could defeat such a monster. Now from their tone, it seemed that there really was someone who could defeat the source of the fallen. And the source of the fallen was currently corrupting witches everywhere, just to deal with that person. Was that even possible? Then where are you going? We're going to escape Los Angeles and this country. Why? Because we're traitors of the source of the fallen and enemies of that person. Giselle got off the boat in San Francisco. She chose to believe the two women's words. If there was really going to be a war in Los Angeles, she definitely couldn't miss it. She had to watch the source of the fallen be destroyed, or destroyed with her own eyes. Then, she took a plane to Los Angeles. Giselle had just left the airport, and was about to hail a car when she suddenly heard a beeping sound not far away. Giselle turned around, and saw a boy around 15 or 16 years old. He was holding a strange device in his hand, which seemed to be the source of the beeping sound. When she looked at the boy also looked at her. Giselle walked towards the boy, who seemed to be afraid of her. He turned around and ran into a car. Angelite, hurry up and drive. I found a witch. It's so scary. This witch has more than 200 magic power. She's at least C rank. Hearing that, Angelite didn't plan to stay. He was just about to start the car when he realized that the engine was off. Turning around, he saw Giselle leaning against the car window and looking at them. Who are you? Do you know me? No, Angelite hurriedly said. Beep, beep, beep. The device in Moore's hand was still beeping. It was the third generation of the magic power testing device developed by Jolig and Padalu. It could detect a person's magic power from several meters away. They all knew that there would be a war in Los Angeles soon, so they were now stationed at the port, train station, and airport to see if there were witches or paranormal people coming from Los Angeles. They also investigated if there were any fallen ones. Moore and Angelite were in charge of the airport, but they didn't expect to be discovered on the first day. Chapter 757. Moore and Angelite didn't dare to resist. They directly handed the device to Giselle. What's this? Magic testing device. 205. This is my magic value. Yes. Giselle soon figured out how to use the magic power measuring device. She tested it on Moore and an elite, and found that their values were quite low. Who are you? We're members of the Supernatural Organization Mississippi. Our mission is to investigate every paranormal who comes to Los Angeles. We mean no harm. Giselle nodded and returned the device to them. Every city had its own rules. In the past, when they went to other cities, they would also be investigated by the local supernatural forces. Miss, are you interested in going to our organization to do a more accurate magic level evaluation? We can give you the most professional evaluation, as well as a certificate and status symbol. Yes, Mississippi, look, this is the ring that represents my level. They both shook the gray rings on their fingers. The Supernatural Organization? Yes. Sure. Let's go. Giselle nodded. She also wanted to find out more about the supernatural forces in Los Angeles. In fact, Moore and an elite also wanted to confirm if Giselle was a fallen. Although the device could measure magic power, it couldn't tell if someone was a fallen. The two brought Giselle to the Supernatural Organization. Giselle followed them and got out of the car. At that moment, Giselle saw a tall woman brandishing an incomparably large sword. Moreover, the huge sword was emitting a heart-palpitating flame. It wasn't an ordinary flame. It was a flame that could even destroy souls. The sword danced in front of Giselle from a distance of more than 10 meters. Giselle felt the burst of mana from the sword's edge. Giselle didn't just feel magic power. She also felt the power of destruction. It's her. It's her. The two women said that the one who could fight against the fallen was her. Giselle looked at Giselle with bright eyes. What's her name? Giselle. She's the strongest member of the Supernatural Organization. By then, Giselle had already finished her practice. She stabbed the sword into the ground. Morangelite, who is she? Gaia. She's the witch I met at the airport. She wants to have a magic test. Oh, just in time. I also want to test my magic power. I feel like my strength has improved a lot recently, Gaia said. Hi, I'm Giselle from Denver. Denver? It seems like there was a rainstorm there. Yes, many people died, Giselle said meaningfully. Let's test our magic power first, Gaia said. Miss Giselle, there are many free magic power assessment services. Please pay $10,000 first. Do you pay by card? Of course. An elite excitedly took Giselle's card. By the way, I sell insurance in my spare time. Miss Giselle, do you want to buy an insurance policy? 205 magic power, rank C. Miss Giselle, this is your magic ring. An elite handed a ring to Giselle. Excellent. Indeed, in the entire supernatural organization, only Gaia could compare to Giselle. Of course, there was also their terrifying president. However, in the hearts of the association members, their president could not even be considered a human. Silver ring? Miss Gaia, what level is your red ring? I'm rank B, Gaia said. But just then, she held the ball on the testing device with both hands. Just then the number on the device started soaring. Wow, 588 magic power. Gaia, you're so strong. You're improving so fast. You're already rank A. An elite gave Gaia a golden ring, which Gaia was very satisfied with. Giselle looked at Gaia with admiration. Miss Gaia, you fought a very, very strong monster before, right? Gaia was stunned. Are you a fortune teller? Seeing that Gaia did not deny it, Giselle was even more certain that Gaia was that person. Miss Gaia, I want to be your servant. Sorry, I can't accept it. Why? Is it because I'm not strong enough? No, because I don't think I have the right to have a servant. No, you do. No matter what you say, I won't accept it. Just then the door outside was pushed open. Giselle realized that there was an Asian standing outside. Where's West? Chun Zhao asked. Where did that asterisk shoal go? Chun, why are you looking for West? Fishing, Chun Zhao said. Gaia rolled her eyes. She did not believe that Chun Zhao wanted to go fishing. Chun Zhao was never the kind of person who was willing to spend hours sitting in front of a fishing rod without moving. Usually, he could not even stay in the same position for 3 minutes in a meeting. Different from Gaia, Giselle glanced at Chun Zhao. She already saw him as a passerby. Chun Zhao was probably like Moore and an elite, a marginal figure in the supernatural organization. By the way, is that big sword you just made? Yeah, I just got it today. Fuck, where's mine? Why did you promise me that you would make a set of weapons for me? I even asked for the weapons to be made with my own money, but yours is paid for by the association. Why is it so unfair? Giselle thought to herself, how can you compare to Gaia? Gaia is the most powerful fighter in the supernatural organization. You want a weapon too? Don't you have a weapon? I'm not giving it to myself, Chen Zhao said. It's for my new pet. That gorilla. Yeah, it's in LA. By the way, who is she? Giselle, a witch. Hello, Miss Witch. Where are you from? Giselle turned her head away, her expression arrogant. Chen Zhao pursed his lips, a little annoyed. Tell West that if he doesn't appear before me in 10 minutes, I'll throw him into the ocean to feed the fish. President, I'm here. West's voice came from outside. Did you do what I told you to do? Chen Zhao asked. Yes, I did. The weapon is outside. As they spoke, they left. That man is your president? Giselle asked. Yes. What kind of wizard is he? Him? I guess he's a druid. Chapter 758. President, it's ready. I found an island for you. That island will have cumulonimbus clouds this afternoon. I've also found someone to rain the rain. They'll shoot dry ice bombs at 8 at night above the island, West said. The rain will last for about 2 hours. Chen Zhao nodded. He had to go home too and bring King Kong to the island. At noon, Chen Zhao took King Kong out to sea. The island West found for Chen Zhao wasn't far. It was less than 200 nautical miles from Los Angeles. However, the island was a coral reef. It was very small, only 3 to 4 square kilometers. King Kong, start setting up the magic array. The two chose an empty space. King Kong was in charge of setting up the magic array, while Chen Zhao was in charge of creating the lightning device. The magic array had a diameter of more than 10 meters. Chen Zhao couldn't understand it. He waited until 8 o'clock at night, waiting for the rain to come. Just then the wind started to get stronger. Thunder boomed in the sky. Chen Zhao stood in the center of the magic array. King Kong was in charge of the array. There were 3 lightning rods around him. The wires of the 3 rods were all connected to the magic array. The first thing that came down was the rain. The heavy rain came down with a loud crash. King Kong controlled the magic array as if he was dancing. Then he started waiting for the lightning to strike. Master, there will be lightning today, right? There should be. Chen Zhao wasn't very sure either. Suddenly, thunder boomed in the sky. It's coming. Get ready. Master, use all your strength. Boom. The lightning didn't hit the magic array. Chen Zhao was discouraged. Wait for the next one. Boom. It didn't hit the array again. Chen Zhao stood in the rain for 2 hours. Then the lightning didn't even hit the array. Chen Zhao went from standing to sitting. In the end, he just lay on the magic array. Seeing that the rain was about to stop, Chen Zhao completely gave up. Boom. Suddenly, a lightning bolt landed on the magic array without any warning. The array immediately shone with dazzling light. Ah! Chen Zhao felt all the electricity pass through his body. Chen Zhao jumped up. The electricity seemed to have touched something in his body. The lightning didn't do much damage to him. Chen Zhao's current fitness was extraordinary. They were dozens of times stronger than ordinary people. And they also had magic resistance. This kind of lightning couldn't deal fatal damage to him at all. King Kong, how was it? Did you succeed? Master, it failed. King Kong shook its head. What? Failed? Why? So I took that hit for nothing? Master, the power of the lightning is too weak. All the steps are enough, but it didn't activate the power factor in your body. So, as long as the power is large enough, it will work. Chen Zhao thought about generating electricity, but King Kong rejected the idea. This won't work. Only when the lightning pierces through the heavens and earth, carrying the elements of the world, and channeling them into the body, will it be effective. Forget it, failure is failure. Let's go home. Chen Zhao was disappointed, but he was prepared to fail. After Chen Zhao and King Kong left, the demon horns around the magic formation suddenly shattered. President, did the spell you wanted to cast last night succeed? West asked. I failed. Chen Zhao was in a bad mood. Originally, he went with high hopes. But the result was not satisfactory. I don't want to hear any bad news today. Usually, Chen Zhao would transfer the unhappiness to someone else when he didn't want to deal with it. Where's the weapon I wanted? It's done, West said immediately. He didn't want to become Chen Zhao's target. President, there's another piece of good news. Tell me. The witch called Giselle, who came to our association yesterday, is willing to join our association. Our association has added another member. She has sea-level magic power and is able to control machinery. Did you find out her background? Not yet. You dare to bring her into the society without investigating? Who gave you this much power? Don't you have to go through me when new members join? What if she's a fallen? Then I'll go tell her now and reject her joining. Are you stupid? There are so few people in the society now, and you're pushing a rank C witch out? Are you going to rely on the few of you to support the society? Wes was about to cry. Then what should I do? Bring Giselle to my office. I'll interrogate her personally and find out her true intentions. Oh, I'll go tell Giselle. West escaped from Chen Zhao's office. Chen Zhao was clearly going to use them today. Every 15 minutes in front of Chen Zhao was another 15 minutes of danger. A while later, Giselle came to Chen Zhao's office. President. Giselle looked at Chen Zhao. Her eyes were filled with pride. To her, the man before her was trash. Just like most members of the supernatural organization. However, Gaia alone was enough for the society. I heard that you're from Denver? Yes. I heard that Denver suffered some kind of attack. Not only did the city flood, but the supernatural world also suffered great losses. That's right. A trace of sorrow appeared in Giselle's eyes. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yes, I know. The source of the fallen. Then you also know that the source of the fallen can control witches and distort their thoughts, right? I know. Then how can I guarantee that you're not a controlled fallen? A while later, Giselle walked out of Chen Zhao's office. Wes stood outside the door. Giselle, how did it go with the president? The president already accepted me, Giselle said. Oh, that's good. Oh, how did you prove it to the president? I told him that I'm willing to give him $100,000 as long as he doesn't question or harass me. West's eyeballs almost popped out. That's possible. Okay, you can go. After Giselle left, West entered Chen Zhao's office. President, why did you do that? Didn't you say that you wanted to test Giselle? Did you buy you over with $100,000? Of course not. Think about it. If she's a fallen and controlled by the source of the fallen, with its hatred for me, will he give me $100,000? But, no buts, Chen Zhao said. You don't understand the source of the fallen. With his hatred for me, he won't compromise with me, even if he's just pretending. I know him well. The $100,000 isn't the deciding factor. It's his attitude. Chapter 759. If you give me $1,000, then I'll definitely be a fallen one. Why? $1,000 is definitely an insult to me. Wes was speechless at Chen Zhao's words. You're the boss. You call the shots. It could be said that Giselle despised that president to the extreme. He was bought over with just $100,000. She even thought that it wasn't worth it. Perhaps $1,000 was enough to shut him up. After returning home, Chen Zhao took out the weapon that was specially made for King Kong. It was just a big hammer. It wasn't made specially. Other than its size, there was nothing special about it. The hammer weighed 5 tons, and the rod was 4 meters tall. King Kong didn't have any other moves. He just used the hammer to smash. It was very powerful. Recently, the wind in L.A. had been getting stronger and stronger. The weather forecast said that a storm would hit Los Angeles in the near future. Chen Zhao also had the last meeting before the storm. You know the situation now. I won't say more. Chen Zhao looked at everyone. Chen Zhao glanced at the crowd. This has nothing to do with the supernatural organization. Don't look for trouble. Everyone, go home and find your mothers. No matter what happens outside, it has nothing to do with you. From today onwards, we'll have a week off. If the storm continues for a long time, the holiday will be postponed. President, how can we do that? Isn't the supernatural organization supposed to protect normal people? Giselle couldn't take it anymore. She stood up and argued with Chen Zhao. The people in the Middle East also live in the water, Chen Zhao said. If you want to, you can go there. Chen Zhao ignored Giselle. Everyone has a family and a job. Take care of your family and friends first, then protect world peace. Gaia, you too. Gaia didn't speak. She just sat there with her arms crossed. She didn't even look at Chen Zhao. She knew that Chen Zhao planned to do it alone. No matter what she said now, Chen Zhao would stop her. He would even chase her out of L.A. directly. Instead of being stopped by Chen Zhao, it was better to just keep quiet. Giselle looked at Chen Zhao in disdain. She didn't speak either. After a few more words, Chen Zhao ended the meeting. Giselle found Gaia. Gaia, do you know how to act alone? Gaia looked down at Giselle and said, listen to the president. This isn't something you can participate in. Hide yourself well and don't go out. Gaia's reply made Giselle even more certain that Gaia was going to act alone. The windy weather affected the operation of Los Angeles to a certain extent. However, Chen Zhao was quite happy. Angel Beach had also issued a warning, so Feilai was on holiday. The wind at Mirror Lake was rather strong today. Chen Zhao and Feilai both swam in the lake. Feilai, I suddenly wish there were a few storms like this in L.A. every year. If L.A. comes here a few times every year, how much money would we lose? Feilai rolled her eyes. Chen Zhao didn't care. It wasn't like he was losing money. After getting out of the water, the inferior demons brought them towels. Chen, why don't we go to Sacramento for a few days while L.A. is having a storm? Chen Zhao glanced at Feilai. I still have some things to do in L.A. You look forward to my holidays every day, but in the end, you still haven't put down your work. Chen Zhao smiled wryly. If this wasn't resolved, they would never have peace. Feilai could vaguely feel that this might be like what happened in New York. She felt bad for Chen Zhao, so she hoped that they could go to Sacramento for a few days. It's just a small matter. Chen Zhao chuckled. Why don't you stay at Feilai's for a few days? Oh, bring Princess and the others too. No, I don't want to go out these days. Feilai didn't want to leave Chen Zhao's side this time. No matter what, she wanted to be with him. Chen, the atmosphere in L.A. is a bit off recently, Sienna called to ask. Is something going to happen? Indeed, something will happen. Try not to go out. Oh, stay with Rupert. It's best if you go out and play for a few days before coming back. No, Sienna said. If there's really something, then I can't leave, Sienna said. Movich Tuda's company can't do without me. Okay, whatever. But if you run into danger, don't get into a fight. If you feel that something's wrong, run or tell me directly. Got it. Chen Zhao told all his friends. Those who could listen would listen. Those who couldn't, there was nothing he could do. That night, it started to drizzle in L.A. However, it was very light, just a hazy drizzle. It didn't affect L.A.'s normal order. Just like that, it drizzled for 2 days without stopping. It didn't seem to be getting heavier either. Mr. Chen, are you busy now? Li Qing called Chen Zhao's number. No, I don't have anything to do these 2 days. What's up? Mr. Ethan's rheumatism is acting up. He can't stand up straight. He doesn't want to trouble you. So I want to ask if you have time to come over and take a look at him. Sure, no problem. Chen Zhao agreed at once. After telling Feilai, Chen Zhao drove off. Because of the rain, there seemed to be more guests at the hotel. Ever since the fire, the hotel had been renovated. Many facilities were .d2. Now the hotel was a bit better. Ethan's business started to improve too. When Chen Zhao arrived at the hotel, Li Qing was in charge of the front desk. When Chen Zhao arrived at Ethan's room, the old bastard was still having sex. Fuck, I heard from Ms. Li that you're about to die. Fuck, why are you here? Ethan stared at Chen Zhao with wide eyes. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Why didn't you call me when your rheumatism is acting up? It's just a small problem, Ethan said in boredom. I really should fire Li. I've already ordered her not to call you, Ethan said uninterestedly. Chen Zhao couldn't do acupuncture on Ethan while saying, Ethan, go play in another city with Ms. Li for a while. Something dangerous might happen in L.A. Lying on the bed, Ethan refused directly. How can that be? I have so many guests here. Whatever. You won't listen even if I tell you. Don't go out these days. Do you think I can go out? Just then, someone walked past the door. Chen Zhao turned around. It was Giselle. Giselle also noticed Chen Zhao. Why are you here? Giselle looked at Chen Zhao in surprise. I'm a doctor, Chen Zhao said. Chapter 760. After treating Ethan, Chen Zhao planned to go home. Just as he was about to drive, Giselle suddenly got in his car. Chen Zhao was shocked. What are you doing? Giselle, I already have a girlfriend. Giselle gave Chen Zhao a document. Chen Zhao flipped through 2 pages. It was filled with names and addresses. He didn't understand what it was. What do you mean? Are you the president of the supernatural organization or not? Can't you see your own organization's information? Oh, is this our organization's information? You know that I'm usually busy with work. I don't pay attention to unimportant information like this. Go to the first address. You have friends. Giselle rolled her eyes. This is the address of a fallen person. Only then did Chen Zhao understand. These days, the society had been investigating all kinds of people who came to Los Angeles with magical power. Some people had been confirmed, but they'd been crossed out. There were also some people whose identities weren't confirmed. They were all on this document. Giselle, on the other hand, recognized the information on one of the documents. Okay. Chen Zhao drove the car to the address on the document. He also wanted to see if he could find a few more fallen ones. Before the battle, he'd kill a few first. It was an abandoned factory. Chen Zhao looked at the closed door. I'll call someone. No need. I'll go in myself. It's too dangerous inside. You don't even know what's going on inside. Also, the fallen are very strong. Giselle glanced at Chen Zhao, her eyes filled with disdain. I had Padilla make some special weapons for me, she said coolly. I'm not afraid of them now. Okay. Chen Zhao stopped trying to stop Giselle. Giselle realized that Chen Zhao had gotten out of the car with her. You're going in too? I won't. Chen Zhao shook his head. He realized that there was a sewer beside the abandoned factory. A pair of eyes was staring at him from under the cover of the sewer. So Chen Zhao decided to check it out. Giselle thought to herself, sure enough, this guy is a coward. She really didn't understand how he became the president of the supernatural organization. To Giselle, only Gaia could be the president. Forget it. Now is not the time to be entangled in this matter. Giselle cautiously approached the iron gate of the factory and secretly pushed it open. There was a witch sitting cross-legged on the ground, meditating. The witch did not turn her head. She seemed to have noticed Giselle. Giselle, you shouldn't be here. You already knew I was coming. Have you forgotten my main profession of magic? I'm a prophet. The witch turned her head. She was a black witch, a contemporary of Giselle's mother. I can see the strong aura of death on your body. You will die here, the black witch said. Giselle took out more than 10 balls. The black witch was a little surprised. What are these things? Giselle threw the balls out, and the balls suddenly spun in midair, extending their wings and beginning to circle around. The black witch raised her hand and shot a flame at the black gas. The spinning balls immediately dispersed, causing the black witch's attack to miss. These flying balls were made by Padaloo. They could spin and fly, and their wings were extremely sharp. Shwa! A flying ball flew past the black witch's arm. The black witch was enraged. Suddenly, a flying ball landed at the black witch's feet. Just as the black witch was about to kick the ball away, the ball suddenly sprayed out a cold air, instantly freezing the black witch's legs. These spinning balls were all sealed with some special substances. For example, strong acids, kerosene, or liquid nitrogen. Giselle was able to freely control these flying balls. Her magic allowed her to control these things as she pleased. The black witch was in extreme pain. She twisted her body. The flesh of her lower body began to crack, but she didn't seem to feel the pain. She twisted her body crazily. Finally, the black witch's upper body and the frozen lower body were completely separated. Just like that, the black witch only had half of her body left, crawling on the ground with difficulty. Giselle had never seen such a crazy enemy before, even though she knew that the black witch had become a fallen. But this was also the first time she saw such a crazy fallen. Just then, octopus tentacles suddenly stretched out from the black witch's stomach. Giselle was shocked. She looked at the Black Witch again. She had now become an octopus person. Her upper body was human, and her lower body had been replaced by an octopus. I'm going to kill you, the Black Witch roared angrily. Then you should die first. Giselle no longer showed mercy. A flying ball flew over the Black Witch's head, and a large amount of strong acid sprayed from it. Ah! The Black Witch wailed in pain. Seeing that Giselle was more difficult to deal with than she had imagined, the Black Witch turned around and fled. Although she had been suppressed by Giselle, her escape speed wasn't slow at all. Moreover, the octopus' lower body allowed her to walk in the complex factory environment as if it were flat ground. Giselle was also chasing after the Black Witch, but in this complex environment, her flying ball was also limited, and she couldn't fly as freely as in the open space in front of her. Just then, the Black Witch came to the entrance of a sewer, opened the manhole cover, and threw it directly at Giselle. Giselle hurriedly dodged, and the Black Witch plunged into the sewer. Giselle also followed her into the sewer. But in the sewer, Giselle didn't run far before she saw blood on the ground. There's someone else here? Giselle ran a few more steps and found a broken arm. Giselle continued forward and saw 2 corpses. She recognized one of the corpses. It was the witch from Denver. But this person had become a fallen more than 10 days ago. The 2 corpses were strung in a straight line by a steel bar and embedded in the wall. Giselle continued forward and saw another corpse. It was also the corpse of a witch. The lower body of this corpse was also an octopus, just like the Black Witch from before. But this corpse's head was gone. The deeper she went, the more nauseous Giselle felt. The more bloody the path became. It was as if a massacre had happened here. Giselle found a relatively large space in the sewer, which had become a slaughterhouse. Corpses that she recognized and did not recognize were all discarded here. Chapter 761. Giselle didn't find a single living person. There were only corpses. She was sure that everything here belonged to the fallen. But she didn't understand who would come here. The dozen or so fallen were completely wiped out. Giselle shuddered. She turned and ran out. When she reached the corner, she saw a head. Looking closely, she realized that it was the head of the Black Witch she'd chased earlier. Giselle ran out of the sewers. She saw Chen Zhao from afar. President. Darling, I really went to Ethan's house to treat him. Then I went to the supermarket and went home. I'm going home now. President. Chen Zhao glanced at Giselle. I'm in a hurry, so I can't take you back to the hotel. Take a taxi. Here's $50. Take it as travel expenses. Bye. With that, Chen Zhao drove the car away. Shoal. Giselle looked back at the dilapidated factory behind her and shivered. She didn't want to stay here anymore. Giselle finally managed to hail a taxi and dawdled for an hour before returning to the headquarters. Giselle found the tool room. Jalag and Padalu were inside. Jalag was a weapon designer, while Padalu was good at manufacturing. Padalu, I need to make a few more spinning balls. Did you fight with someone just now? Yes, that Shoal president. I was fighting and he didn't do anything. He was talking to his girlfriend the whole time. In the end, he even left me here. Hearing the topic about Chen Zhao, Jalag and Padalu immediately stopped talking. I don't understand why someone like him is our president. Are you that scared of him? The last person who disobeyed the president's orders and disobeyed him was killed right in front of us. In Giselle's mind, Chen Zhao was not only useless but also a tyrant. Don't you know how to resist? I have high hopes for you. You can try resisting the president. Let's see if he won't beat you up. Jalag rolled his eyes. I'll be beaten up? Giselle sneered. I'm not trash like you, she thought. The storm in Los Angeles was getting stronger. At the same time, the tide outside Los Angeles did not rise. Instead, it receded on a large scale. This also cast a shadow over the citizens of Los Angeles. There was only one possibility for such an unusual retreat. The tsunami had arrived. The city of Los Angeles issued a red alert. Almost all traffic in Los Angeles came to a standstill. Airports, railways, and ships had all stopped operating. Factories stopped working and schools were suspended. Everyone knew that a disaster was coming. After nightfall, The wind became stronger and the rain became heavier. A large area of water had already appeared on the streets. Moreover, the water was growing very quickly. Some streets were already completely covered by the water. Feilai, it seems like it's raining heavily today. Should we sleep early? Don't you think it's very romantic in this weather? Chen Zhao looked at Feilai helplessly. Whatever makes you happy. The water level of Mirror Lake had risen and filled the living room. King Kong curled up on the second floor shivering. He was most afraid of water, and this kind of storm made him even more frightened. Chen Zhao silently took out a lucky coin and wiped a drop of blood on it. May God bless you with great fortune. In the rainy night, Gaia carried her sword and left her apartment. Just as she was about to get into the car, she saw a black shadow sitting in her car. Gaia suddenly lifted the sword. Just then, Giselle's head poked out of the window. Gaia, it's me. Why are you here? Ms. Gaia, you're going to fight the source of the fallen, right? I'm coming too. Get out. Why? Why? Gaia glanced at Giselle. This isn't something you should be involved in. Gaia, do you know what happened to me? West investigated, Gaia said. Currently you're senior sisters and you've all met with mishaps. The supernatural organization wouldn't be so careless. Just anyone could apply to join. Plus, the situation was so tense right now. Who knew if the fallen had ulterior motives? Therefore, Giselle's identity and background had already been investigated thoroughly. I must join. You'll only be a hindrance, Gaia said. The president and I will handle this. President? He'll only make us hide. He's not reliable at all. I don't know what misunderstandings you have about Chen, but he's done much more for the organization than you know, Gaia said. Also, the main battlefield is in front of the president's house. I don't care where the main battlefield is. I'm going. Forget it, Gaia said. If there's a battle later, no one will protect you. You can only rely on yourself. I'm the same. Gaia brought Giselle to Mountain Town. However, when they arrived, the two realized that the town had already become a sea of water. Their car had also broken down in the puddles. Let's get out and walk. It's not far anyway. Gaia, where are we going now? To the president's house. Why? Where? I told you, it'll be the main battlefield. Why? Because the president has a grudge against the source of the fallen. Grudge? What kind of grudge? The president gave the source of the fallen a nickname. The source of the fallen is furious. What nickname can make the source of the fallen go to the president directly? A monster with tentacles. Effed. Giselle almost choked on her laughter. No wonder the source of the fallen hates the president so much. The water was very deep right now. The water had already reached their waists, which made it even more difficult for them to move in the water. Why does the president live in such a remote place? Why? Don't talk so much. The more you talk, the more energy you use. Save your energy for battle. Suddenly, a huge black shadow flashed past in front of them. It was a huge ship, but it wasn't floating on the water. Instead, it floated in the air. It was a stormy night, so they could only vaguely see the outline of the ship. What's that? Gaia and Giselle both gasped. Gaia immediately sped up and charged toward Chen Zhao's house. At the moment, Chen Zhao was sitting above the internal alchemy on the lake. He didn't want to fight in his house. After all, he'd spent a lot of money to build it. If a battle broke out inside the house, it would definitely be destroyed. Chapter 762. Chen Zhao looked up at the black shadow above his head. Boat. The fallen source's entrance seemed to have become a lot more ostentatious. If the ship were to crash down, it would probably make him dizzy. Fortunately, the ship floating in the sky had no such thoughts. At this time, fallen one after another descended from the sky. Dozens of degenerates stood on the surface of Mirror Lake. Their feet touched the surface of the lake, but did not sink. These degenerates didn't say anything and directly attacked. The mana of each of the fallen began to interweave, forming a magic array. Chen Zhao looked at the degenerates. You should call your asterisk out. It doesn't matter how many cannon fodder like you come. Just then, a wave came from the water in the distance. The source of the fallen had entered Mirror Lake from the river mouth. Human, we meet again. Hi, how have you been? Chen Zhao looked at the source of the fallen. Can we be more direct? Don't beat around the bush. Do you think these witches are useless to you? Are they useful? I can't tell. Chen Zhao shook his head. These 36 witches are all demon-suppressing witches that I have carefully selected. All of them possess powerful suppressing magic, and they have now formed a sealing magic array. Even I can't break free. Do you think you're stronger than me? Chen Zhao wanted to take a step, but he realized that he couldn't move at all. He really couldn't move? Chen Zhao tried to move again, but he still couldn't. What do you think? Isn't that a pleasant surprise? The fallen provenance's voice was filled with joy. Chen Zhao looked at the source of the fallen. Have you forgotten that this is my main battlefield? At this moment, many ghostly lights suddenly appeared on both sides of Mirror Lake. The fully armed skeleton soldiers appeared and started shooting at the witches on the lake. One by one the witches were killed. Chen Zhao also felt that the suppression seemed to have weakened, but he still couldn't move. Activate Zeus' wrath immediately. The fallen source was not naive enough to think that this magic array could take care of Chen Zhao. The spaceship in the sky suddenly flashed with electricity. Gaia and Giselle saw the lightning above Mirror Lake. Oh no, they've already started fighting. Gaia and Giselle found a piece of wood and used it as a boat, paddling with all their might. Finally they arrived at Mirror Lake. They saw Chen Zhao trapped in the center of the lake by the witches and the rain of bullets. Chen, I'll help you. Gaia yelled and leaped into the air from the wooden plank. Gaia's greatsword slashed down, and a fallen instantly received a lunchbox. Gaia, don't come any closer. At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky suddenly flashed with lightning and thunder. Countless bolts of lightning shot towards the spaceship in midair, causing the spaceship to emit a bright light. Then the lightning from the ship shot at Chen Zhao. Bang! Oh no! A huge shockwave spread out in all directions with Chen Zhao at the center. Gaia was sent flying by the impact. Chen Zhao was hit by a huge electric current. He couldn't stop trembling. Right now Chen Zhao was in extreme pain. But he also had another feeling. That feeling was very much like in Wuxia novels, where the Ren and Du meridians were opened. However, after the huge shock, Chen Zhao also lost consciousness. He fell onto the water and didn't move. Giselle didn't expect that the president she hated and despised would die like this. But it was reasonable. After all, he was facing the terrifying provenance of the fallen. No! Fei Lai rushed out of the house and wanted to swim to Chen Zhao. Gaia had already woken up. He also roared, "No! A bunch of trash." The provenance of the fallen glanced at the remaining people. More fallen landed from the spaceship in the sky. Gaia swung his great sword and split a fallen in half. Gaia's blade burned with scorching dragon breath as he waved it around wildly. Even the pouring rain couldn't extinguish the flames on the blade. Fei Lai had already swam to Chen Zhao's side and dragged him to the top of the internal alchemy. "Chen, how can you do this? How can you leave me?" Fei Lai cried. "Chen, how can you do this?" Suddenly, Fei Lai remembered and immediately pulled a gold coin from her neck. "Right, scapegoat coin, scapegoat coin. Chen, don't die, don't die." However, Chen Zhao still didn't move. He lay quietly in Fei Lai's arms. Gaia fought her way to the shore. When she saw Fei Lai in the middle of the lake, she immediately jumped back in. But just then, a tentacle wrapped around her and pulled her into the air. "Obey me." Gaia had dragon blood. How could she be controlled by the provenance of the fallen? Flames suddenly erupted from Gaia's body. The tentacle was immediately released by the burning flames. At this moment, Gaia released her tentacles, and with a push of her feet, she rose a few meters higher. Gaia's body fell like a meteor falling from the sky, crashing toward the provenance of the fallen. When Giselle saw Gaia, her eyes were filled with anticipation and admiration. As expected, she could only hope for Gaia in the end. But the provenance of the fallen didn't give Gaia a chance to touch the body at all. A huge tentacle suddenly swept toward the falling Gaia. Bang! Gaia was sent flying and smashed onto the shore. Gaia stood up with difficulty and vomited a mouthful of blood. It was too difficult. Fighting a monster like this was too difficult. Even Chen Zhao couldn't win, let alone herself. Giselle's face was filled with shock. Her original hope instantly vanished into thin air. How could this be? Why was there such a huge difference? Could even Gaia not win against the provenance of the fallen? More degenerates landed from the spacecraft in the air. They all charged toward Fei Lai and Chen Zhao. Gaia wanted to go forward to help, but if she moved, she would fall into the water. Her leg bones and ribs were all broken. Gaia panicked even more. Right now, she could only use her sword to support her body. Roar! A dragon's roar reverberated in all directions. Suddenly, a red light appeared in the darkness. From the direction of the mansion, something covered in flames rose into the air. Disbelief filled Gaia's eyes. She could feel the blood in her body starting to boil. She'd had the same feeling back on Zytral Island. It was the same feeling as when the three-headed dragon had appeared. But this time the feeling was even more intense. The flames shot up from the bottom. A pillar of fire shot into the sky. Chapter 763. Abydos had already transformed into a 7-meter-long fire dragon. He roared at the sky. Abydos hadn't grown much, but his body had become much larger. Fire dragon? Gaia and Giselle were both shocked. Chen Zhao had a fire dragon. Immediately, 9 snake heads popped out of the water. Each of the 9 snake heads bit down on the 9 fallen ones. The 9 snakes circled around Fei Lai, protecting her. Hydra. Little 9 had a corrosive bomb on the left and a poisonous gas on the right. Anyone who wanted to approach Fei Lai was killed by Little 9. Abydos kept flying above Mirror Lake, circling around Fei Lai. He spat out dragon breath and surrounded Fei Lai. Suddenly, Gaia realized that something was moving under her feet. She took 2 steps back in fright. Vines started rising from the water. More and more vines appeared, forming a wall of vines. It wasn't just around her. The entire Mirror Lake was surrounded. Then, Gaia saw a big tree appear in front of her without her noticing. Eugenus had joined the battle too. Gaia recognized the tree. It was the one Chen Zhao had planted in the backyard. The entire Mirror Lake was now surrounded by a wall of vines. Next, Cerberus joined the battle too. The Cerberus's body was wreathed in hellfire, as it suddenly burst out of the water and bit down on one of the fallen. The 3 heads shook, and the fallen one split into 3. Cerberus, Gaia gasped. Fei Lai didn't care about her surroundings at all. She just hugged Chen Zhao and cried. Suddenly Fei Lai felt Chen Zhao move. Shocked, Fei Lai yelled in excitement. Chen? Chen, you're not dead. You're not dead, right? Chen Zhao slowly opened his eyes. Grabbing Fei Lai's neck, he kissed her. How come you're here? You asterisk shoal, why don't you die? Fei Lai slapped Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao touched his cheek. Ignoring the gunfire around him, he pulled Fei Lai and started kissing her. Fei Lai struggled to open Chen Zhao's eyes. Asshole, can't you see the situation? Chen Zhao didn't care too much. He hugged Fei Lai and kissed her deeply. Are you done? Fei Lai panted. Chen Zhao finally let go of Fei Lai and roared in the direction of the mansion. King Kong, come out! If you don't come out now, you'll never come out again. Seeing Chen Zhao stand up miraculously, Gaia's eyes were filled with surprise. Jin Gang came out of the villa. Although the water did not reach his calf, he was very scared. Abydos! Hearing Chen Zhao's cry, Abydos immediately landed beside him and started licking Chen Zhao's face. Send Fei Lai to the shore. You and King Kong will protect her. Chen Zhao placed Fei Lai on Abydos' back. Abydos successfully sent Fei Lai to the shore. Giselle stared at him in disbelief. Just how many legendary creatures did this guy raise? Fire Dragon, Hydra, Cerberus. There was also the incredible Treant. These 3 could be said to be the most representative legendary creatures of the West. Now she had seen all of them in one night. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The second round is starting. Chen Zhao looked at the fallen. Don't call me asterisk, 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 asterisk. The fallen hated this nickname to the bone. Right now Chen Zhao felt like he had endless power in his body. Kill him, the fallen ordered all the fallen. You want to compete in numbers? You make it sound like I'm scared. The gargoyles also made their move. The gargoyles that were flying in the sky kept teasing the fallen. The 2 sides fought in the sky above Mirror Lake. The gargoyles might not be strong, but their greatest characteristic was that they were almost impossible to kill. Just then a figure as large as the fallen jumped out of the water. The gigantic figure opened its bloody mouth and swallowed a dozen or so degenerates in one gulp. Giselle was dumbfounded. What was that? What was that thing just now? Was that Chen Zhao's true power? Giselle remembered that West had once said that Chen Zhao was a druid. So Chen Zhao's true power was to control these legendary creatures. Chen Zhao put away the internal core under his feet. At the same time, he summoned 2 clones. They hid in the water and put on a set of clothes. The 3 Chen Zhaos jumped in the water and charged toward the fallen. The tentacles hidden in the water moved immediately. Countless tentacles attacked Chen Zhao and the 2 clones. His original body and clone were bound by the tentacles at the same time, but his strength was much higher than before. The tentacles couldn't restrain them at all. Instead, they grabbed the tentacles, and it became a tug-of-war in the water. The 2 clones grabbed the tentacles. The fallen felt something was wrong. It wanted to pull back but realized that it couldn't move. Chen Zhao's real body went straight toward the fallen. One of the fallen's tentacles slapped Chen Zhao's real body from the water. Chen Zhao was slapped into the air. But the next moment, Chen Zhao took out the internal core. He fell vertically from above. Boom! Under the acceleration of gravity, the internal core smashed heavily into the fallen's head. Chen Zhao lifted the internal core again. Just like that, he lifted the dozens of tons of internal core. You want to take revenge on me? Bang! Chen Zhao smashed it down, lifted it up, and smashed it down again. Giselle and Gaia were both dumbfounded by what they saw. The huge stone ball was used as a weapon by Chen Zhao just like that. He seemed to want to smash the fallen into meat paste. But after smashing it a few times, Chen Zhao felt that the internal core really wasn't useful. Because the inner core was simply too big, there was no grip point. He could only lift it. It was hard to use. Chen Zhao had an idea. The dark serum wrapped around the internal core. After it was wrapped, the black egg turned black. This way, it was much easier for Chen Zhao to control it. Chen Zhao connected one hand to the dark serum, and then pulled the internal core. He used the internal core as a hammer ball. Come on, come on. Didn't you say you wanted to take revenge on me? Come on. The source of the fallen had been completely smashed into a retard. Chen Zhao's attack was too brutal. I told you to do a striptease, but you're not willing, right? Bang! You felt good just now, didn't you? Bang! Do you know how much my family lost because of this? Bang! You bullied my woman while I was unconscious, right? Bang! I surrender. Surrender my ass. I don't want to surrender. I want to make takoyaki. Chapter 764. The source of the fallen was really stubborn. Chen Zhao smashed it a dozen times, but it still wasn't dead. But even so, it didn't mean that the source of the fallen was unharmed. It wasn't like it was made of steel. It couldn't be smashed into the ground by a stone ball that weighed dozens of tons. Anyone would be beaten senseless. Giselle was dumbfounded. Since when was the once arrogant source of the fallen so weak? No, it wasn't that it was weak. That man was too terrifying. Chen Zhao's 2 clones also joined in the beatings. The 3 punched and kicked. They wouldn't stop until the source of the fallen was smashed into pieces. Come on, let's do a striptease. Come on. If possible, the source of the fallen really wanted to do a striptease for Chen Zhao. But Chen Zhao realized that he really couldn't beat it like this. The source of the fallen was too tough. After all, it was a freak that recovered quickly. Human, you can't kill me. Give up, the source of the fallen said. It knew that it couldn't beat Chen Zhao now, so it gave up resisting. But its recovery speed was shocking. A dead pig wasn't afraid of boiling water. Chen Zhao called Gaia to his side. Gaia, cut off his body parts. Do what? Gaia asked, confused. This thing recovers too fast. No matter how hard I hit it, it can still recover quickly. Then what do we do? My pet likes to eat him, Chen Zhao said. Feed my pet first. Chen Zhao's pets of various sizes all came. To them, the source of the fallen was just a giant roast lamb. No one was polite. They went up and tore at the source of the fallen in a few bites. Meanwhile, Gaia and Chen Zhao started cutting off the flesh of the source of the fallen and throwing it into the water for Amon to eat. They completely treated themselves as butchers. Giselle moved closer and looked at Chen Zhao and Gaia. who were covered in blood. Even though they weren't enemies, the water scared Giselle quite a bit. Giselle looked into the source of the fallen's eyes. Suddenly, a thought drilled into her mind. Chen Zhao seemed to feel it. He turned to Giselle. "If you're controlled now, I'll cut you up and feed you to the dogs." Giselle shivered in fear and sobered up. Sometimes fear is the best way to stay awake. "Chen, we can't. This guy recovers too quickly. We can't kill him at all." Soon the pets were full. Only Amon could continue eating, but the source of the fall had recovered. "Call Eris. She has a magic book with a way to seal it." The rain did not stop, and the water was almost over the first layer. Alice finally arrived. Of course, she was accompanied by the other members of the association. However, they came by speedboat. At this time, the whole of Los Angeles had become a lake, and cars could not move at all. "Giselle, why are you here? Where's the president?" Giselle didn't dare to get close to the source of corruption. She pointed at Chen Zhao on the other side of Mirror Lake. Chen Zhao was still beating up the source of the fallen. Gaia was already exhausted, and was brought back to the villa to rest. "Fuck, what a fuck. Could that be the source of the fall?" "That's him." Alice nodded. "It can't be that you want us to join the battle, right?" "We can't handle it," West said. "The president already defeated him, but he can't kill him." So he called Alice over and told her to seal the source of the fall. "I'll go over there." "Don't go over. I was almost controlled by the source of the fall." Giselle hurriedly pulled Alice back. "Apart from the president and Gaia, it'll be hard for everyone else to avoid it. But if Alice doesn't go over, how can we seal the source of the fall?" "Let the president's pets deliver the message," Giselle said. She saw that Chen Zhao's pets were delivering messages for Chen Zhao and Fei Lai. Fei Lai only had to say a few words to a pet, and the pet would deliver the message to Chen Zhao. These pets would also not be controlled by the source of the fall. Chen Zhao was exhausted too. After all, he'd fought for an entire night. The source of the fall was covered in wounds, but it would jump around again after a short rest. He had no choice but to continue. Chen Zhao used a few sharpened trees to nail the source of the fall to the ground. Eugenus also used vines to tie the source of the fall into a dumpling. But he couldn't continue like this. Chen Zhao would eventually get tired too. After being struck by lightning, Chen Zhao's stamina had greatly increased again. But there was still a limit. Just then Abitos flew over. "Ada, that human girl over there said that she doesn't have enough power to seal the source of the fall. So there's no other way?" Chen Zhao asked. If Alice couldn't do it, he could only release the source of the fall. But if he released the source of the fall this time, he really wouldn't have a chance to kill it again. Plus, he'd made such a huge enemy this time, that the source of the fall might stab him in the back. She said that there's no way to seal it completely. What does that mean? I don't know. Go back and ask before coming back. A while later, Abitos returned. Ada, that human girl said that there's a loophole in her seal. Just then the source of the fall stopped. You've already beaten and scolded me. Why do you still want to seal me? The source of the fall exploded. It waved its tentacles again. Chen Zhao saw that the situation was bad. They were going to fight again. Chen Zhao suddenly thought of an idea. The source of the fall was an alien god. So there should be a core to make a foundation treasure in his body, right? If he took the core, who knew if the source of the fall could still be so arrogant? In for a penny, in for a pound. Chen Zhao took out the bronze sword, covered it with the dark serum, and stabbed it into the source of the fall. Ah! The dark serum seeped into the source of the fall. It felt extreme pain again. It wasn't a stranger to this pain. Last time, just a little bit of the dark serum had tortured it for 2 months. This time, it wasn't just a little bit. The source of the fall waved its tentacles wildly again. The people in the distance were shocked. Only Chen Zhao could fight against such a monster. If it were them, a single tentacle would probably be enough to send them flying. Large amounts of dark serum seeped into the source of the fall and started wreaking havoc inside. Chen Zhao hacked at the tentacles outside. However, the source of the fall was even harder to deal with when it went crazy. Chen Zhao grabbed the source of the fall and hammered it left and right. Chapter 765. No. The fallen source struggled with all its might. If he didn't fight for his life now, he would really die. He could feel Chen Zhao's dark serum seeping into the depths of his body, trying to take over the core. But the fallen source's struggle didn't stop Chen Zhao's goal. The moment the dark prime fluid came into contact with the core, it suddenly expanded. With a puff, the fallen source's orifices, mouth, nose, and eyes spewed out large amounts of dark serum. The fallen source lost all signs of life and stopped moving. Chen Zhao sat on the ground exhausted. Everything was finally over. The sky was starting to brighten. Everyone looked in the direction of the light. That asterisk wasn't moving anymore. Chen Zhao also sat on the ground. Everyone was still in a state of shock. It was finally over. Giselle stared at Chen Zhao in disbelief. She didn't expect that the scariest person in the association wasn't Gaia, but Chen Zhao. After a while, Chen Zhao dragged his tired body back to the mansion. Everyone looked at Chen Zhao. "President, you're really too amazing. You're the one in my heart." "Shut up. I'm really tired now. Get out of here, all of you. I'm going to rest." Chen Zhao had a bad temper. Everyone knew that Chen Zhao always kept his word. Now that Chen Zhao had spoken, they all ran away. Chen Zhao only left Gaia behind to treat her injuries and arrange a guest room for her to rest. Chen Zhao pulled Fei Lai, who hadn't slept all night, into the bedroom. "Chen, I was scared to death last night. I thought." As Fei Lai spoke, tears welled up in her eyes again. "I'm sorry for making you worry." Chen Zhao didn't want Fei Lai to know about the danger he'd faced in the past, because he didn't want her to be sad. Chen Zhao was very tired. Fei Lai was also very tired. In his haze, Chen Zhao suddenly saw an image. A memory that shouldn't belong to him appeared in his mind. Chen Zhao was shocked. Where did this memory come from? Chen Zhao was very conscious now. Run. This memory gave Chen Zhao the feeling that he was running for his life. He'd escaped from the fog. He was surrounded by the vast ocean. Chen Zhao immediately realized that the extra memories he had were the memories of the fallen. It was clearly from before the fallen source was sealed. But he seemed to have escaped from somewhere. Was there something chasing after him? However, with the fallen source's strength, what could possibly kill him? One had to know that the fallen source's strength was not something that a cat or dog could compare to. For example, the three-headed dragon could probably be easily taken down by the fallen origin. But Chen Zhao could feel the fear of the fallen. He was still surrounded by the boundless ocean, and the source of the fallen had been drifting on the ocean for who knew how long. All of a sudden, a ship crashed into the. Then Chen Zhao opened his eyes, holding his head. At that moment, he really felt as if he was the source of the fall. What the hell? Could it be that I've been controlled by the source of depravity? At this moment, the sun was shining brightly outside the window. The black wind was long gone, and the heavy rain was no longer pouring down. When Chen Zhao went downstairs, he saw Fei Lai and Gaia chatting in the yard. The flood had subsided, and the underlings were cleaning up inside and outside. Hearing his footsteps, Fei Lai called out in surprise. "Chen, you're awake. How many days did I sleep?" "It's 1 day longer than the last time, 75 hours. It seemed like he was really tired this time." "Gaia, how's your injury?" "I healed a long time ago." Gaia's body was also extraordinary. "Chen, are you sure our kids won't get a stomach ache after eating that monster?" Fei Lai asked. In the past 2 days, she'd realized that the pets at home ate the corpses of the fallen source every meal. No matter what she prepared for them, it was useless. They clearly preferred the corpses of the fallen source. "It's fine," Chen Zhao said. "They just like it. Unfortunately, I won't have a chance to eat it in the future." Mirror Lake had calmed down, but some things brought by the storm and flood couldn't be cleaned up so quickly. For example, the nearby swimming pool was now filled with mud from the waterfall. Of course, with the hard-working underlings, Chen Zhao and Fei Lai didn't have to do anything themselves. Seeing that Chen Zhao was better, Gaia left after lunch. As soon as Gaia left, Chen Zhao started kissing Fei Lai. LA had a storm and a tsunami this time, but there weren't many deaths. A couple had died, and they'd gone to the beach on a stormy night. Just as Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were getting intimate, Wes called. "President, I heard from Gaia that you're awake," Wes said. "I was just sleeping. Chen Zhao said in annoyance. What do you mean I'm awake? Do you know how to talk? President, we've received all the funding for this year. Do you want to come and host it? How much? Chen Zhao's eyes brightened. $5 million. How much do I need to renovate my office? After kissing Fei Lai goodbye, Chen Zhao hurried to the headquarters. As soon as he left, his phone rang again. But he'd left his phone at home. Fei Lai picked it up. Hello. Hello, are you Mr. Zhao? Is this Mr. Chen? No, I'm his girlfriend. I left his phone at home. How can I help you? When he arrived at the headquarters, Chen Zhao subconsciously touched his body. He'd forgotten his phone. Whatever. He wouldn't lose his phone at home anyway. Plus, there wasn't anything shameful in his phone. Entering the conference room, everyone looked at Chen Zhao. The people who'd been chatting happily immediately shut up. Now, as long as Chen Zhao appeared in the conference room, no one dared to disturb the order in the room anymore. President, these are the results of the past 6 months. You can read them yourself. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes at West. He'd only joined the association for less than 3 months. How could he read them? Why did the United States also put on such formalism? Enjoy them yourselves. Let's talk about how to use the funding first. President, our weapons research department needs more funding, Jalik said immediately. Jalik had always been the one who asked for money the most in the association. He was also the one who could get it the most. After all, he was in charge of researching everyone's weapons. Even Chen Zhao had to give him some face. As long as it doesn't exceed $200,000, Chen Zhao said. President, it's not enough. It'll be gone if we experiment on something. Nonsense. I don't need you to research atomic bombs. $200,000 is enough. President, how about you research a few powerful weapons? Next time we encounter monsters, you guys can fight them. I'll give you as much funding as you want. Jalik didn't say anything. Forget it. Chapter 766. Anyway, anyone could ask for funds as long as it didn't exceed $200,000. Chen Zhao would get anxious if it exceeded this limit. His office hadn't even been renovated yet. You want some funds, I want some funds. 5 million seemed like a lot, but it couldn't be split among the wolves and tigers. The supernatural organization didn't have many members, but there were many places where money was needed. For example, the construction of the training ground would cost hundreds of thousands. Chen Zhao and West had done an evaluation. They wanted to build a training ground for the members of the organization. The initial estimate was $800,000. They didn't have money before. Now that they had money, Chen Zhao wanted to build the training ground first. Of course, if they requested for weapons or equipment, Chen Zhao could approve it. When Chen Zhao returned home, he realized that Fei Lai had been holding his phone and spacing out on the sofa. Chen Zhao went up to hug her. Fei Lai, what are you thinking about? Fei Lai sat there in silence, not saying a word. Chen Zhao was confused. Fei Lai, what's wrong? After 5 minutes of silence, Fei Lai finally spoke. Chen, I just received a call from Santa Maria Hospital, Fei Lai said. San Francisco? Santa Maria Hospital? Chen Zhao was confused. Call them yourself. It's someone called Dr. John. Chen Zhao hesitated. San Francisco? Jerlin was the only person he knew. Did something happen to Jerlin? If it was Jerlin, it was no wonder that Fei Lai would be so jealous. Hello, I'm Zhao. Chen, are you Dr. John? Hello, I'm Dr. John. Are you Ms. Jerlin's ex-boyfriend? Chen Zhao hesitated and answered, yes. Ms. Jerlin gave birth to a baby girl in our hospital on August 15th. Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. His expression froze and he turned to look at Fei Lai in shock. Chen Zhao started calculating the time. He'd come to America on National Day last year. Then, he'd slept with Jerlin around October. He and Jerlin hadn't been in a relationship back then. In fact, he and Jerlin hadn't been in a relationship at all. So they'd been more careful in that aspect. Jerlin had taken birth control pills. How did she have a child? Alright, although it sounded a little unpleasant to think about. But Chen Zhao couldn't help but wonder if the child was his. May I ask where Jerlin is? Miss Jerlin is dead. Dead? Chen Zhao was dumbfounded again. Dead? How did he die? She wouldn't die of dystocia in this era, right? Miss Jerlin was shot when she was giving birth. Although we tried to resuscitate her, due to her heavy injuries, we only managed to save the baby, Dr. John said. Because Miss Jerlin only registered that you're the father of the child, and she also left your contact information, the hospital can only call you. Of course, you're not legally obligated to adopt this child. If you refuse to adopt this child, we'll send the child to an orphanage. Wait a moment. I'll go to San Francisco tomorrow. Can we talk face to face then? All right. After hanging up, Chen Zhao looked at Fei Lai. Fei Lai, I'm sorry. Fei Lai suddenly pounced on him. Chen, let's have a baby too. I want to have children with you too, Fei Lai said. He didn't know what a woman's mind was like. But now he couldn't even say that he didn't want to have a child so early. Actually, Chen Zhao hadn't planned on having a child so early. He wanted to be carefree for a few more years. But now, another woman had given birth to a child for him. What could he say? I'll go to San Francisco tomorrow, Chen Zhao said. Okay, bring her back, Fei Lai said. Early in the morning, Chen Zhao went straight to the airport. Chen Zhao's emotions were very complicated. Joy, nervousness, doubt. A woman sitting beside Chen Zhao saw that Chen Zhao was sweating profusely and in a daze. Sir, are you not feeling well? I'm fine. Chen Zhao came back to his senses. I'm fine. The woman looked at Chen Zhao's nervous expression. Is he a terrorist? Okay, the woman was thinking too much. The plane landed safely. Chen Zhao was nervous and hesitant, but he didn't do anything extreme on the plane. Sir, the exit is over there. The woman followed Chen Zhao and realized that he didn't know the way. Oh, thank you. The woman followed Chen Zhao. Seeing that Chen Zhao was still in a daze, she almost walked onto the road and got hit by a car. A moment later, the woman parked her car at the airport and saw that Chen Zhao was still waiting by the roadside. Sir, where are you going? Do you need a ride? Is it convenient? As long as you don't need me to drive you to the suburbs. St. Mary Hospital. Okay, come up. The woman looked at the nervous Chen Zhao. Are you sick? No, I just suddenly found out that I have a daughter, Chen Zhao answered. Your wife? No, ex-girlfriend. Okay. At the entrance of the hospital, Chen Zhao looked back at the woman in the car. Thank you. May I know your name? Maria. I'm Chen. Oh, I also know someone called Maria, but you're not like her at all. Goodbye. Chen Zhao entered the hospital and found Dr. John. Hello, Dr. John. Can I see my daughter? You need to do a blood type comparison first. If you're not the father, we can't give the child to you. America's protection of children had reached a very strict level. Anything that was related to children would become complicated. Of course, the blood type comparison came out very quickly. Dr. John held a blood test report. Mr. Chen, after matching the blood types and a paternity test, we've confirmed that you're the biological father. Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. It really was his own child. He'd actually become a father? Mr. Chen, do you want to adopt the child? Of course, of course. Chen Zhao nodded. Our hospital will help you get a certificate. We'll also help you contact an adoption agency. May I know what your job is? I'm a professor at UCLA. A good job would definitely make the adoption process smoother. Okay. Dr. John nodded. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.